And one. What up? What up? What up? Welcome to another episode of the Sports PSP podcast. As Champ always says, the highlight of Friday nights. I got the panel with me in the building. Hope everyone is enjoying a fantastic day coming off work, school, whatever the case may be. I got my boy Harrison, North Carolina's own. He's back. How you doing, man?
I used to pray to times like this. I'm finally back. It feels good. Uh, my cousin got married last month. It was amazing. And by the way, never get married in Virginia. Go to everyone else besides Virginia. Virginia was a place. Do not go there. Do not live there or don't go near there. I went to Atlanta a couple days ago. I mean, it was amazing. I love the ATL. Was amazing. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna start school in the fall, so I'm trying to get my crap together. But everything else, man, feels good. God is good. God is great. And I can't wait for the Panthers this year, bro. Hopefully, and also Atlanta. We're all gonna be better than the Saints. We can all shake our heads right now. And also, it's always a privilege and an honor for the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Undisputed World Champ, and also the best BRF, and also the GOAT PSP. So I'm glad to be back, man.
Always a pleasure having you back on the pod, man. And of course, BRF Sports. How you doing, my brother?
I am doing wonderful. It is always a pleasure to help bring some real flair to the sports talk game. Always a pleasure to get on here and share the spotlight with you two fine gentlemen. And hey, even though I joked with them before the show kicked off, hey, I always enjoyed chopping it up with Harrison, man. It's good to have you back. So hey, it's a pleasure to be back on the panel with you brothers, man. And I'm ready to get it going. It's always a blast, and I hope y'all fine gentlemen are enjoying yourselves right now.
Absolutely. And of course, we cannot do the Sports PSP podcast without the four-time college degree military man, the young Charles Barkley, as I always call him. Brilliant, does a great job on TikTok covering the WNBA. By the way, there's a big game tomorrow afternoon on the WNBA. I believe ABC, ESPN, Undisputed World Champ will cover it because the great Asia Wilson will be going up against the Golden State team. He's a brother, always an honor, a pleasure, privilege having him on the pod, and also number one person for daiquiris and po' boys as far as a patron, undisputed world champ. How you doing, brother?
I feel like that was a Major Glory salute that everybody was doing. Everybody remember Major Glory from Dexter's Laboratory? I feel like that's what we was doing about a second ago.
I had it till PSP said daiquiris and po' boys, boy. I couldn't hold it no more.
I've actually been laying off. I've been laying off the daiquiris and the po' boys a lot as of lately. I ain't had a lick of alcohol in almost 60 days, so I'm enjoying being sober right about now. So, yeah, God is good, as Harrison said, man. I'm glad to be on here. It is a privilege, a pleasure, and an honor to be with the Tom Joyner of podcast, PSP, the hardest working man in podcasting.
I like that.
The real reason why I call you Tom Joyner of podcasting is because, like I said on the show the other night up on a Tuesday, I'll be in the middle of work doing network plans, and then here comes PSP. Hey man, gotta get this video going. I'm like, all right, let's go ahead, let's do it. And the thing about Tom Joyner, people don't understand this. I didn't understand this until I got older. He used to do a show in Dallas and then fly the same day to Chicago and do a radio show. And I didn't know that until recently. I was like, wow, that was crazy. That the hardest working man in radio wasn't just a moniker he made up. That was something he was doing for real. And that's why I call PSP the Tom Joyner of the podcasting business, because he's just that hard working, brother.
Thank you. Always give love to the great Mama PSP too. Mama PSP always tells me in order to get something in life, you got to work for it. You got to get up every single day. Nothing is promised. You just got to get up and work for it. And shout out to Mama PSP. Shout out to everybody on the chat. Luis, Harrison, Champ, BRF, Brandon from the Block as well. Please make sure you like and subscribe to Brandon from the Block's podcast. Always a pleasure checking him out on his pod. But fellas, got a lot to talk about. Champ and I, of course, we did the episode on Tuesday night. Great episode. I picked the Oklahoma City Thunder to beat the Indiana Pacers in the NBA Finals. Champ has Indiana because he would love to see the state of Indiana win a championship because the basketball of Indiana. Oklahoma City, they had a 15-point lead in the fourth quarter. And somehow, some way, Indiana just found a way to come back and win the game. And Tyrese Halliburton on tonight's episode, what the Helly? Because he just finds way to hit clutch shots after clutch shots after clutch shots. I mean, of course, the layup against the Milwaukee Bucks, the 3 against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and of course, game 1 in the Eastern Conference Finals against the New York Knicks, impersonating the great Reggie Miller's choke sign. Voted by his peers as the most overrated player in the NBA and in the NBA Finals. I am shocked. I can't be shocked. I can't say this was luck on the Indiana Pacers' part. It has to be skill. This is who they are. They just find ways to win. And I just thought OKC was too much for Indiana. Their length, the defense. And if you look at the game, I'm just reading at the box score, man. The way Indiana shoots the 3, they shot 18 to 39 from 3-point range, which is 46.2%. And not even one Pacers player even had 20 points or more. Pascal Siakam, 7 to 15 from the field, 19 points. Tyrese Halliburton, 14 points. Andrew Nembhard, 14 points. Miles Turner hit a big step back 3 to put up to give the Thunder a 4-point lead. Rick Carlisle, and I said this before, Champ, and we agree, he's a hell of a coach, going back to his days with the Indiana Pacers and also his days with the Dallas Mavericks.
Yes.
I'm still riding with the ship. I am still going with the Oklahoma City Thunder. And please go shout out to my girl, Nessa. Like, share, and subscribe. Please go check her out on the podcast, the wrestling podcast, and also check her out on the Sports View podcast as well. Hey, y'all. By the way, she knows her wrestling. She knows her sports. Please go make sure you like and subscribe to her content. Does a great job. And shout out to BRF and John Watson, of course, Mr. Watson. But I'm still rolling with Oklahoma City winning this series, but I am concerned because you had a 15-point lead and it should have ended the game there. SGA, he did what he could. Could he have had a lot more help from the other players? Yes, but I got to give it to Indiana. And if Indiana wins this series, I'm not going to be mad. Would I be surprised? Yes, because I do think that Oklahoma City is still the better team based on the talent and the eye test. But, man, the way that Indiana comes back and win games just like that, it is just crazy. And Tyrese Halliburton, if the Pacers win the championship, and if he's the main reason, there's nothing else that you can say regarding him being overrated or anything else. You better give the man his props, his flowers. But wow, what a comeback by the Indiana Pacers. BRF, what were your thoughts on last night's game?
It was, I gotta tell you, it was a little disappointing. Normally, with the Oklahoma City Thunder, when they have a lead like that late in the game, you're watching them as the game progresses, and you think they've turned up defensively up to 10 as it is, but it's like when they get a lead like that late in the game, it's like they turn it up even more. It's like they put it in the overdrive. It's like it's like as an offense, when it's like they smell blood in the water. Like when they know to have you down, they find a way to just end you that night and they put you out. And it was like, for some reason, whether it was too many missed shots, just not really containing them like they should on the defense, on the defensive end of the court, Indiana being able to make shots, being able to make shots, whether it's Nembhard making threes, whether it's Miles Turner hitting the big three, Pascal Siakam. I've said this about Pascal Siakam. This is where the Indiana Pacers can do something with him having NBA Finals experience, winning the championship in Toronto. He has this kind of experience. He knows what to expect in big-time situations like this, like the NBA Finals. And we got to remember, that was the Golden State Warriors. That was the dynasty of the 2010s that he helped beat to get that championship. So he understands the gravity of what's going on right here. So having a Pascal Siakam is going to do wonders for the Indiana Pacers, and they would just it's like a team like Indiana, you have to put them away, because if you don't, they're going to keep clawing and they're going to find a way. However, but I will say this though, Oklahoma City has done this before in the playoffs, and it's like as much as I enjoyed seeing the Indiana Pacers get that game 1 victory, I'm a little nervous for them going into game 2, because every time it seems like Oklahoma City has a good game and then they lose it the way they did, because they've done this multiple times in the playoffs. Ask Minnesota, ask the Denver Nuggets. They've done this. And then the game after, they turn up and they just run through them in the next game. So I'm a little worried as far as Indiana in game 2. However, the best thing you can ask from this is to take the home court advantage from the Oklahoma City Thunder, taking it back to Indiana, taking it back to the field house for because if I'm not mistaken, the NBA Finals, I believe they go 2-3-2. So after these 2 games, the next 3 are in Indiana. I may be wrong. If you can check and correct me, but I'm pretty sure the NBA Finals usually goes 2-3-2 after all the normally after all the other playoff series ends, because the other playoff series are 2-2 and then they alternate home games. So Indiana needed that one badly. They needed it badly to snatch the home court, go back to just to get one. That's usually the goal of the road team in a series like this, in the playoffs. Get one, whether it's game 1 or game 2. They are 2-2-1-1-1. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So honestly, for me, it's even more vital they got this one. With the finals being a 2-2-1-1-1 layout, it's even more critical. So now you know for a fact now. You at the very least, you got 5 games in this series. You know this now for a fact. So it was very critical for Indiana to get this one. I mean, but just like I said, knowing how Oklahoma City operates, the fact that they have messed up games like this in the playoffs already this year. And then that next game, they usually always come back with a vengeance. They're very good as far as just being able to adapt, being able to just adjust, basically correct what they did wrong in the previous game, and they come out in the next game with a vengeance. So if I'm Indiana, I'm in. You know what I'm saying? I'm back. I'm looking at the film. I'm looking at the tape. I'm saying you got to see what went well. You got to see what wrong, because even though they did come back and win that game, we also have to remember they were down 15. So even though they did come back and win that game, they played some bad basketball going up into that stretch, even though they came back and won that game. So they have corrections on their end that they need to make too, to hopefully play a better 4 quarters in game 2. With that being said, I do expect I'm gonna go ahead and make a prediction on this. I do expect Oklahoma City to come back and tie this series. I do expect them to tie this series, because, like I said, when they have a game like game 1, they are usually so good at being able to come back, correct what they need to correct, and they come out with a vengeance, and they don't let stuff like that happen again. They don't let stuff like that happen in back-to-back games. So I am fully expecting Oklahoma City to come back and tie these series. But with that being said, Tyrese Halliburton, I feel like, has already shut up a lot of people with this performance. I don't think he has to win the championship. He's already shut people up. I mean, the fact that you were voted by your peers as the most overrated player in the league, and the fact that you've come into this playoffs and have just basically like you said in the intro, clutch shot after clutch shot after clutch shot after clutch shot. He's come through for this team in big times when they needed him the most. And you just can't say enough by a team, but a guy who they're basically building around you as the face of this team, as the face of this franchise. That's what you want from a guy like Tyrese Halliburton. When they made that trade with the Sacramento Kings to acquire him, this is what they envisioned. They envision Tyrese Halliburton being the face of this franchise, and he is taking on that, mantle very strongly, and he's playing some good basketball right now. So I am definitely loving what I'm seeing from Tyrese Halliburton. Did he play well in that first game? No. Like you said, he only got 14 points, but hey, he did what he needed to do down the stretch when it mattered most, and then helped them get that game won and helped them snatch home court from the Oklahoma City Thunder. And now they got it made. Now they got it made going into the Indiana, just from the standpoint they know even if Oklahoma City is to win game 2, they know Oklahoma has no shot of ending them now. They know this is going at least 5 games. So shout out to the Indiana Pacers. They just never say die. They are the never say die team. They are the underdogs. And there and like I water cooler talk. You know what I'm saying. I'm at work. I hang. You know what I'm saying. I hang with some guys at the job. We talk about stuff like this every so often on our breaks, and just hearing some of them talk about Indiana, just talk about how they operate. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. You saw it in game 1. It's like you have to, when you have your foot on their throats, you have to press. Otherwise, they're going to find a way. So the Oklahoma City Thunder's got to come back in game 2 and figure out just what they did wrong, how to correct it. I don't think there's been a better team that's been able to do that better than them in the playoffs. So like I said, I expect them to win game 2. But I tell you what, I'm all for an exciting series. I want this to go 7. This series deserves to go 7. And I just want to see good basketball from this stretch forward. And I think with teams like Indiana and Oklahoma City, I expect good team basketball moving forward going into the series.
Talk to me, champ.
You know what's so funny that adds insult to injury for Tyrese Halliburton and SGA, although this game was just a thriller? Insult to injury. This game was the lowest rated game 1 in finals history since 1988, if you could believe that.
Yeah, you sent us on the group chat. Yeah,
I could not believe that. I was like, that's just insult to injury. I already got sat out on the bench in the Olympics. People have been hounding me all year. I got graded as overrated by my peers. And in the biggest moment, arguably in Indiana history, probably next to the 2000 finals when they faced off against Shaq and Kobe, this is the lowest rated finals since 1988, game 1. That is flat out ridiculous. Man, as far as Tyrese Halliburton is concerned, man, look, in the great words of the Birdman, put some respect on it. RESPECK, respect. Because that's what he deserves right now. The thing was, I thought that game was over, especially the way that Oklahoma City closes games out. And they turned over the ball 19 times, Indiana, in the first half.
Yep.
19 turnovers. Now, you turn the ball over 19 times, your star player plays horribly the first half. Only gets 14 points, and you still win the game. Imagine what they're going to do when they're clicking on all cylinders. When the Indiana Pacers are clicking on all cylinders, they look like my Showtime Lakers. When they start going on a run, it's hard to stop them. That's what they look like. And look, it's time. Just apologize, guys. Just apologize. That's all you got to do. You labeled him as overrated, and he proving you wrong. Now, to BRF's point, I don't think he has to win the championship. He has already proven them wrong. But me being the man who I am, it's always good to add the final STFU to it. It's always good to just put that little cherry on top of the banana split. It's always good. Yeah, I might not have to win the championship, but I'm going to anyway. And then I'm going to win the finals MVP just to quiet y'all forever. Shout out to Carter B, forever. So
I got distracted because we were talking about Stephon Diggs and Cardi B the other day, just for context.
Yeah. Shout out to Cardi B. Like in the great words of Cardi B, forever. I want to silence you forever. So with that being said, man, look, he doesn't have to win a championship, but it's always good to put that cherry on top to say, hey, you can never say that, hey, you're not overrated anymore, but you still didn't win that chip. Remember, even when Steph Curry was winning finals, they still gave him HE double hockey sticks until he won finals MVP in his last championship. Even when he was winning unanimous MVPs, the knock on him was, well, you didn't win finals MVP. So they're going to always try to find that one little crack in your armor in order to try to throw some doubt at you. So Tyrese Halliburton, please go ahead and give them the final STF. Go ahead, win that championship, maybe even win the finals MVP, and just go ahead and just put it to him. Because the thing is, we've seen some epic comebacks from you. Saw it in the first round, the second round, third round. Now we're seeing it in the final round. It's beautiful. So he doesn't have to, but in order to make sure they be quiet, he needs to. You don't have to shut them up, but to make sure they stay quiet, go ahead and win that championship, Tyrese Halliburton. Lead the basketball capital of the world, that being the state of Indiana, to a championship and shut up everybody forever. That was a great game, a great comeback. And not to mention, look, winning time, who do you want that? It's going to start a whole lot of other conversations too.
Him and like, Jalen Brunson as far as clutch player?
Yeah, but not only that, who do you want to take this shot? It's going to start a lot of conversations. Who do you want to take the final shot when there's 5 seconds left and you need a buzzer beater? It's going to start a lot of conversations. And I believe this is it. Because thus far this year, it's been Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah. Harrison?
I have to give the respect to Tyrese Halliburton. Yeah, he's shutting people up. But you know what? I know I didn't make my prediction on the NBA Finals, but if you don't mind, PSP,
go ahead.
Can you put me on the big screen, by the way?
All right. Give me a second, real quick. Let's see.
Listen, I don't care. I listen. Respectfully, Tyrese Halliburton, you are a stud. It's time for you to go down. I don't care. FDU, TCU, CPU. OKC in 5. All right.
That was actually good. That was really good.
I like that. That's good.
I had to pull it out of my brain. I had to fake it because I don't want to copy Shannon Sharp because I have to.
Well, you from the South, so is BRF and Champ. Y'all from the South, so y'all know exactly how to say it, the terminology and stuff. But that was pretty good, Harrison.
That was lit. I couldn't be mad at that.
That was good.
But listen, Tyrese Halliburton, he had himself a great. But listen, SGA, listen, I'm gonna be honest with SGA. He ain't Superman. You can't. It's not like it's not an individual at the end of it. It's a team sport. But I know SGA tried to work his tail off, tried to win himself game 1 in the NBA Finals. But guess what? You couldn't. Did he have the weapons? Yeah, he did. I mean, he had Chet Holmgren. I mean, listen, dude's a stud. But right now, I'm still rooting for OKC. SGA, get the job done, man. You got to get the job done. OKC in 5. Come on, man. You got to get OKC in 5.
I got Oklahoma City win this series in 6. I believe Oklahoma City has to win game 2. Because if they don't, then guess what? It's going to be a problem because that fan base in Indiana, and we've seen Tyrese Halliburton's father, and you know how hyped up he is in Indiana. But what a shocker. But an exciting game, but still low ratings. But again, it just seems like to me, champ, and we've had this discussion, and I don't want to regurgitate, champ. It's just the disrespect of the low market teams. And people just want those big market teams. They want to see the New York and Los Angeles, and that's all well and good. But sometimes, hey, Indiana, as you mentioned, great basketball place. It's a great basketball state. I told you there's them and North Carolina. Those are two basketball states when you think of basketball. And then with Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, of course, you think of the football. And you've told me before, champ, Indiana and North Carolina, as it pertains to basketball, they're like Texas is with football.
Mm-hmm.
That's how revered it is to that state. And for them to still get low ratings, you better tune in to watch games 2 and the rest of this series. You better stay tuned in to watch the rest of the series and stop taking it for granted. But shout out to Tyrese Halliburton and Rick Carlisle, man. Hell of a coach. He's done a hell of a job taking over for the Indiana Pacers. He moved on from Luka Doncic. He goes back to Indiana, a team that he used to coach, and then now to the finals, first time since 2000. But we're going to continue on a little bit of the NBA. BRF, I want you to go first because Champ and I weighed in on this. What were your thoughts on the New York Knicks firing Tom Thibodeau?
Wow. It kind of caught me off guard a little bit. And the reason why I say that is like I know we talked about, Thibodeau and like his just how he runs his players into the ground, like he plays them too much and not always using his depth and rotating his players out. We talked about that. We talked about that a lot. But did you kind of notice these playoffs? The New York Knicks were a really deep team in the playoffs. They were going about 8, 9, sometimes 10 deep with this roster in the playoffs. Guys like Miles McBride, guys like Mitchell Robinson. They were bringing Landry Shamet off the bench every so often, getting quality minutes in the playoffs. I mean, Thibodeau was running them out. He was running them out there pretty deep in the playoffs, and like, it's a Knicks thing to do. I'm gonna just go ahead and say it. It's a Knicks thing to do because you make the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in like 24, 25 years. And I mean, like, you got the city blaze, you got them on fire, and it's not like you lucked your way into the Eastern Conference Finals. Y'all played really good ball to get there, especially against the Boston Celtics. I mean, unfortunate that Jason Tatum blew out his Achilles. Very unfortunate. But even up until that point, the Knicks outplayed them. The Knicks outplayed them in every facet of the game. And then you go out in the Eastern Conference Finals. You lose and you fire him. And now it almost feels like Tibbs kind of hid all the BS from behind the scenes. He hid everything because you notice after he gets fired, then all the stuff come rising up to the surface, like people talking about Cat's defense. Players are talking about the bad kind of it gives with Rick Brunson being on the team, not only being on the team but now being thrown into the idea of being the next head coach. Like, just so many things all of a sudden coming to the forefront now that Tom Thibodeau's gone, and it's almost gonna feel like if they don't find the right guy, they're gonna be back to square one. And we're talking about what they were like before Thibodeau got there. If they don't find the right guy, this is almost gonna feel like a one-hit wonder type of team if they don't find the next head coach. And I mean, the next good head coach that can kind of maintain this kind of level of actual stability that the New York Knicks actually have for a change. Because now you're talking about now you got people talking about wanting to trade Cat, and I'm like, bro, better part of the first half of the season, Cat was your best player until Jalen Brunson decided to turn up. So I mean, let's kind of pump the brakes a little bit about wanting to trade Cat. Like, get your guy in there. I mean, you fired Thibodeau. You fired him. You know what I'm saying? You went all in on this. You pushed chips to the table. You fired him. So now you have to really go out there, do your due diligence, look at all the candidates out there. You got to find the right one. Me personally, if I'm James Dolan and I'm Leon Rose and I'm looking at all these candidates out there, you want to know who I'm looking at the most?
Mike Malone.
You got doing right. I'm looking at Mike Malone as the next head coach. That's who I'm looking at. I'm looking at Mike Malone as the next head coach. And the reason why I look at Mike Malone as the next head coach is because I feel like the stability he had running the ship that was the Denver Nuggets, leading that franchise to a title, its first title. And just like, and even still when he got fired on that losing streak, honestly, people were talking about the Denver Nuggets being the team that if they could turn it around and get on the same page, could be a dark horse to win another title because you have Nikola Jokic, who, in my opinion, is the best player in the world. Jamal Murray, who has shown himself in the playoffs to be one of the more clutch players in the league. Shout out to Aaron Gordon for that crazy playoff run he went on. He balled out in the playoffs. And now knowing from what I've seen, Russell Westbrook's coming back to finish out that contract with the Denver Nuggets. So I mean, I think Mike Malone would be I feel like Mike Malone is the best guy to kind of come in there, keep a level of stability there. Because I mean, Mike Malone is one of those guys, like, he's kind of like Thibodeau, you know, he ain't gonna take no mess. He ain't gonna take no mess. He's kind of like one of those no nonsense kind of guys. He's about his ways, but at the same time, he's gonna fight for his players. He's gonna lay down the law. He's gonna lay down the law, but he's gonna fight for his players. And I think that was one of the main things I felt the Denver players did really respect about him. He would go to war for his team, and I feel like he would keep that kind of level of stability, and he would bring that in with the Knicks. I feel like Mike Malone is the best candidate to come in and take over and be the next New York Knicks head coach. But it took me back because it was like we did all this talking about Tom Thibodeau, but at the same time, hey, I mean, it worked. You got to the Eastern Conference Finals. Something was working. And then to just boot him like that, I just feel like it was more to it than just losing the Eastern Conference Finals. And like I said, you hear all these news stories coming out. It's like, it's kind of weird. You know, you fired him now. Now all this stuff is coming to the surface. So, you know, it was a little fishy to me. Me personally, I don't think they should have done it. Sometimes, regardless of how you feel about the man, you got a stable system in place and things are working, and ride it out. Ride it out. You never know what this New York Knicks team can do. Keep it together. They could make another run. But now you're gonna have to bring another guy with a whole new system, and they have to get acclimated to something different. I feel like with the level of talent they have on that squad, I think they can maintain it and be really good. But I don't know. It just kind of it was shocking because, you know, NBA teams are starting to do this a little bit too much for my liking. And it's not the bad teams, it's the good teams. You know, you got Denver firing Mike Malone. You got you got Memphis firing their coach. You have Milwaukee firing Adrian Griffin earlier in the season when they're like in the top, when they were like, I think they were like, if they're like third or fourth in the Eastern Conference at the time, Adrian Griffin got fired. It's happening a little bit too much with the teams that are actually winning. So I don't know what's going on, but I'm gonna need them to kind of look at themselves in the mirror right now and figure out why the heck these good teams or these teams that are contending for playoff spots are firing these coaches in the middle of the season, or in the New York Knicks case, after making it to the Eastern Conference Finals. So it's kind of, I didn't like it personally, but I mean they've done it. So now at this point, you have to find the next best candidate. You have to find a candidate who you feel best fits what you want in that system. Me personally, I think it's Mike Malone, but we'll see where it goes. It just kind of I don't know. I didn't really. I don't know. I didn't like it. Me personally, I didn't like it.
given everything that he has done for the New York Knicks, because the past 4 to 5 seasons, he's helped them get to the playoffs. And before Thibodeau, the Knicks have been a moribund franchise in James Dolan's time. You know, he's been owning the team since 1999. The reason why he owned the team because he inherited the business from his father, Chuck Dolan. And since he took ownership of the team, they've been a complete laughingstock. The reason why, BRF, and you mentioned the operative term fishy. Don't you find it kind of fishy that the Knicks players were partying just after the Eastern Conference Finals?
Extremely weird.
Champ, did you see that as well?
Yeah, I saw it, but at the same time, I will say this. Sometimes you can't browbeat yourself into submission. You have to think about what was accomplished. And the fact that we got to an Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 25 years and a couple things go right, we are in the finals. I think that should be something to be celebrated. I understand that people are going to say, well, that's not about winning. But this is a team that has been a laughing stock. And we brought them back, and we brought ourselves back from that to prominence. Not to mention, I don't think, look, the way it's looking, Cat is already being in talks for trades.
They shopping him.
Yeah, and everything that I'm reading, especially the stuff that PSP's been sending me, yeah, you about to be freezing in about couple of months because you might be heading to Milwaukee, partner.
Yeah, because again, it's being reported that the New York Knicks are trying to get Jason Kidd. And the reason why is because Jason Kidd worked with Giannis, going back to Giannis's early days in Milwaukee. This may be a potential opportunity to land Giannis in a trade. And it's possible that if you're gonna get Giannis, you're gonna have to give up Cat. And Milwaukee's going to ask for some draft picks, champ.
Yeah. And
I think player-wise, I think it's going to, real quick before you go, champ, I think it's going to, player-wise, I think it's going to take more than Cat to get Giannis. I'm not even going to lie. They're going to have to give somebody else up, too.
I mean, giving up an all-star and a couple picks, I think it's going to be pretty good. But the thing is, you still got to worry about what you're going to have to give up in order to get Jason Kidd as well, because they're not going to let him go quietly.
Right. But, and Jason Kidd wants some leverage because considering what happened to him in Dallas, and after he was stunned, he was furious of the Luka trade. I mean, just look at him in that press conference with him and Nico Harrison. That should tell you all you need to know. Sorry to steal your thunder, champ, but New York, them lose with Thibs and BRF, you said exactly almost everything I said on a Tuesday. It's a pandemic with these head coaches. Doesn't matter if you're good. Doesn't matter if you even won a championship. You getting fired. These head coaches are getting they blown out. They're like blown out like sand on the beach. It's quick nowadays. It's quick like rice at a wedding. People, it's easier for head coach. Head coaches are getting fired just like rice is thrown at a wedding. I mean, Michael Malone, he gets fired, and the Nuggets were in playoffs. If the season ended for them, they would have made the playoffs, and he couldn't even finish the rest of the regular season. And then you look at Mike Budenholzer. There's Johnny Bryant, who's up there, who's a member of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, that's a coach who I think the Knicks should look at because, again, he's familiar with the New York Knicks going back to Jalen Brunson. I understand Michael Malone because he's winning the championship. And if you're in New York, you better capitalize it right now because, to your point, BRF, Jason Tatum will be out for the rest of next season because of the Achilles. Other than Indiana, who is the only team that can compete against the New York Knicks? So you better find a way to capitalize it. And I've said it before, champ, if Jim Dolan screws this up and if they regress, New York Knicks fans are going to be upset. Now, they're still going to support their New York Knicks no matter what, but they're going to be upset because this is the best window for us to get to a finals. And if we screw that up.
Yeah, to your point, everybody's going to be looking at James Dolan and the general manager.
Leon
You got to
Rose.
ask yourself, with these coaches being fired, is this more ego than players?
I think it's players.
Because go ahead,
Because
my
again,
bad.
no, Champ. The reason why I say that is because these players nowadays, it seems like in order for you to maintain a head coach, you have to relate to these players. You know how the NBA is with the NFL. The players have more leverage there as opposed to other leagues. And it doesn't even matter if the coach is good enough. They're getting fired just like that.
I think they're playing with fire by doing that, because the thing is, like I said, it'd be like this. When you're bringing in guys, you're bringing in different coaches every couple of years, you're ruining the chemistry of that team. Now, if you see that this coach cannot get you over the hump, like Doug Collins was with the Chicago Bulls, had that team for years and just couldn't get over the hump, and you decide to bring in a Phil Jackson, okay, cool. If you see a coach that can't get over the hump, like Paul Westhead when he was in Los Angeles, even after he won a championship, and you see everything's not going the way it's supposed to go, cool. But now you're just breaking up teams right and left. And of course, if you regress, people are going to look at ownership. But hell, right now, the players have more power than the damn owners do. So should we really be looking at the owners, or be looking at some of these players? And just start acknowledging the elephant in the room? Some of these players are uncoachable, and they don't want to be coached. Remember when Kevin Durant said when him and Kyrie teamed up there in Brooklyn?
Yeah, I remember.
Coach, we may not need a coach. A lot of these players are not coachable anymore. And that's the problem. Everybody's going to look at the owner if they regress. Everybody's going to look at the general manager. Maybe it's time to start addressing the elephants in the room. Because the thing is, these general managers and these owners are not firing these coaches for no reason. Either they're firing them because of ego, or they're firing them because of the players and they're complaining about it. Look what happened with Adrian Griffin. So it's time to start addressing elephants in the room when it comes to these coaches getting fired. These players are uncoachable. They don't want to be coached. The thing is, even Magic Johnson and the greatest of all time, Michael Jordan, said, the thing I liked about my head coaches, they coached us hard. That's what it takes to win a championship. That's what it takes to do something that you have never done. In order to get something you ain't never had, you got to do something you ain't never did before. And you have to be coachable. So with all of these players, all these coaches getting fired, every time you look around, they have to be informed about it. All of that. It's safe to say that a lot of these players are just becoming uncoachable, because there's no way that you make the conference finals for the first time in 25 years. The city is on fire. New York Knicks fans, even the bandwagon fans, are just, Spike Lee is back at the games, chatting and all of that. He's back on network TV talking with everybody, doing interviews, doing podcasts, just like the good old days back in the 90s. All of a sudden, that coach is gone. Really? The only time that should happen and somebody has gotten you that far was the case in what happened with Pat Riley. They just decided to move on to another team, and they ended up hiring Jeff Van Gundy in New York. That was the last time something like that happened. Where a coach that got you to a finals end up leaving because on their own volition. But it's time to start acknowledging it. Oh, they're getting rid of coaches. Yeah, because of these players are becoming more uncoachable by the day. More and more. I understand player empowerment, but the thing is this. You have to make it so where these players are going to have to figure it out with these coaches. That's the coach's job. Do you think that Michael Jordan and Phil Jackson got along all the time? No. In fact, when Phil Jackson first got there, he didn't. Jordan hated Phil Jackson when he first got there. He said, I felt like Phil Jackson was trying to take the ball out of my hand. The ball deserves to be in my hands. I decide the pace of the game. He finally got over to him, worked on Mike. They were champions within a couple years of him getting there. Cherry on top. Same thing with Shaq and Kobe. You think that Phil Jackson wrote a lot of bad things about the late, great Mamba in his book that came out in his last season in 2004, when he ended up getting fired by the Laker organization.
Yeah.
There was a lot of rifts between him and Kobe Bryant during that time. Guess who asked for him back at the end of the day?
Kobe.
Oh, yeah, that was Kobe Bryant, because he realized that I was a little bit more uncoachable than I was supposed to be. So it's time to start addressing elephants in the room. These coaches are getting fired, not because of the ownership, not because they're doing a bad job. It's because of these players are becoming more uncoachable by the day. Guess what? When you have a championship ring and you win something, that means something, especially when you get over the hump with teams that ain't never did anything, like the Denver Nuggets. When you talk about the Denver Nuggets, you talk about probably three people in their history outside before Mike Malone got there. You talk about Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, a.k.a. Chris Jackson. You talk about Dikembe Mutombo, and you talk about that upset that they had in the 90s against the Supersonics. He wins a championship. That should be royalty forever. If a lot of things are being miscued at a certain point, okay, that's the coach's job to figure that out. That's the coach's job to make adjustments. That's the coach's job in order to bring in the rotational players, go to the front office, say, we need to trade this player is bad for the chemistry. That's what that's supposed to be. But the reason why a lot of these coaches are being fired, and you're seeing more coaches like Doc Rivers get into positions of power when they ain't got no business being in there, is because these players are becoming more uncoachable by the second. And it's a shame. Player empowerment is okay when you have it to a certain extent. But I ain't never heard Michael Jordan, even when him and Phil Jackson wasn't getting along, I ain't never heard him just go to the press and just get him fired. Never.
Harrison, what are your thoughts about Thibodeau being fired?
No comment. Just no comment.
All right, I'll add a little bit more on this. Jared, we talked about with player empowerment, and that's fine. We have no problem with players using their platform and using their power. But it's gotten too far. And there's another coach, and I mentioned him, Champ, and I would love to see him get a head coaching job, but he'll never get it. And I don't know why, other than his beliefs. And that's one Mark Jackson.
Yes.
Because Mark Jackson did bring us the greatest shooting backcourt in Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. Before Steve Kerr, it was Mark Jackson who set the foundation. Steve Kerr, to his credit, took advantage of it, made the most out of it, and still able to get Golden State to where they are. But, Champ, I just feel like with this team, and look, Dolan is known for making bad decisions. I can't say anything about Jim Dolan because he stayed out of the way for the most part. Leon Rose has done his job as far as with the team. But to let go of Thibs, and I understand his reputation, and I would know because I am a Bulls fan, he was known for running players under the ground. Look no further than Derrick Rose. Some would actually argue he was the reason in which Derrick Rose's career ended the way that it did. Because after winning the MVP his third year, year 4, first game in the playoffs during the lockout season in 2011, gets hurt. And that was the beginning of the end for Derrick Rose. Because as athletic as he was never the same. He'll give you some flashes, some great performances, but he was never that same Derrick Rose of old. At one point, it was him and Russell Westbrook as far as most athletic point guards in basketball. I get that Thibs can run players under the ground, his reputation. That speaks for itself. But if you're New York, you haven't been to the finals since NBA finals since the lockout year, 98, 99. You haven't been to the Eastern Conference Finals since 2000. I've said it before, champ. You better capitalize it right now, because at one point it was supposed to be the Brooklyn Nets as the team in New York, because back in 2019, they acquired both KD and Kyrie in free agency. And in the following year, during the 2020 season, they acquired James Harden in a trade from Houston. Knicks, these players, and look, if it's the reason why, could it be because of player empowerment? How the way Coach Thibodeau is? And look at Michael Malone. Remember, champ, we had this discussion as well as BRF. Remember, the players, they were reportedly upset with Jokic and Murray receiving preferential treatment. Here's the thing. That happens. They're the cornerstones of that franchise. Jokic is a 3-time league MVP. Jokic is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Jamal Murray, when healthy, we know what he can do come postseason time. Certain athletes and certain players get preferential treatment all the time. That's just the game. That's just how it is. And if you can't accept that, I'm sorry. So it's not just player empowerment. I mean, preferential treatment. Now that's a problem, because wait a minute. How is anyone going to argue for Jokic getting preferential treatment? Because look how the way he started in his career. Remember, he got drafted during a Taco Bell commercial. And he is right now one of the top 10 greatest centers of all time. You look at Jamal Murray, an elite number 2 option. What was the reason? We may never know exactly why Thibodeau was fired. Now, if you want to make the argument, the lack of adjustments, the offensive, the defensive adjustments in the playoffs, that is fair. That is legitimate. They feel like if we had a better head coach with this type of team, okay, we can at least get to the finals. But the question is, who? Michael Malone? Yes, we know he's won a championship. And yes, there's Mike Budenholzer. There's a lot of other excellent candidates. But they're getting fired just like that. And it's not safe for these head coaches nowadays to coach and do their job. So, I mean, I don't know what you could really ask from Thibodeau. I wish him nothing but the best. Will he get a job at some point? I don't know. Would it surprise me he'd be out for a year or so? Maybe. But it's a shame, because, again, for New York, for that Knicks franchise, and for that city, before, you were horrible. And the Knicks, they were known for a lot of things under the Jim Dolan stewardship, champ. As I mentioned, let's not forget kicking fans from Madison Square Garden because the fans had the nerve, the audacity to tell you, hey, sell the team, because under your ownership, you've been a disaster, such as kicking Knicks legends like Charles Oakley out of the arena, such as the situation with Spike Lee with the security. I mean, Spike Lee is a lifelong New York Knicks fan. Of all people, you get into an issue with him, considering how much money he pays for tickets, how he has helped marketed the New York Knicks, even through good and bad. And then let's not forget the Anuka Brown Sanders situation, because that was so. And then Thibs gets fired. So if the New York Knicks, the only way you can justify firing Thibs is that you got to get the right type of head coach that can coach this team. And if players still going to complain, then that's on them. At the end of the day, it all comes to sacrifice. Do you want to win? Do you want to do whatever it takes in order for you to win? Sometimes athletes may say, yeah, they want to win, but do they want to handle, champ, all the requirements it takes along the way? And that's the thing they got to ask themselves. Because look, I did not like the fact that the Knicks players were celebrating, champ. Yes, you can look at it and say it was the first time since 2000 they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, but I'm still ticked off because guess what? Last year I lost in the Eastern Conference semifinals, and people will look, and some Knicks fans, some in the media and the public, they'll look at it and say, well, it was played due to injuries. OG Anunoby got hurt. Jalen Brunson later in the season, later in the playoffs, he got hurt. What was your excuse this time going up against the Indiana Pacers? You were healthy. OG was healthy. Jalen Brunson was healthy. You just knocked off the reigning NBA champions, the Boston Celtics. So what was your excuse? You had a 16-point lead, 16-point lead in the fourth quarter, and you blew that. So what is your excuse?
That's a good question. I can agree with you there on the fact that, yeah, you had another chance in order to get your team to at least to the finals. Nothing would have benefited not only the New York fan base, but, the NBA itself having the biggest market in the world in the finals. But like I said, I think more so about what was accomplished. A lot of things got accomplished in New York. New York is truly back on the basketball map. New York is the mecca of basketball. Rucker Park, Pee Wee Kirkland, just to name a few basketball legends, Escalade, and One Legends, all of them. So I really think it was more about what was accomplished. I'm not going to bang these players and bash them because, like I said, you already lost. You just lost your coach. You don't know what's certain. You don't know if this roster is going to be back next year. So, okay, yeah, we lost. Let's celebrate what we accomplished. It's kind of like, I'm going to just be real. It's kind of like graduating, but everybody who you thought was going to come with you didn't. Celebrate what was accomplished, move forward, and let's gear up for next year. Now, I will say this. Next year is going to be wide open because next year, this is probably the weakest that the East is probably going to ever be. We don't know what Philadelphia is going to look like. We don't know what Milwaukee's going to look like. We don't know what Boston is going to look like. And we don't know what a lot of teams are going to look like next year in the East. So this is probably the best opportunity that you're ever going to have. It's kind of like Michael Jordan retiring. It's like this is the best opportunity that you're ever going to have. So I will use this wisely, but I don't have a problem with players saying, look, we lost understandably. But the thing is, we might not be together again next year. Cat might not be here next year. Our coach is not going to be here next year. We're going to have to learn a brand new system. A lot of the players that we're here with may not be here next year because we're already hearing trades about one of the best defensive and offensive players coming to New York. So celebrate what's accomplished. Go ahead, do your thing. I have no problem with it. Go ahead, celebrate. Right? You brought New York back to the forefront, which is a hard thing to do. Especially, with the voracious New York media. You think the Los Angeles media is bad? That New York media will eat you alive.
Why do you think James Dolan does his part to stay away from it? Because you know how sensitive he is regarding that New York media.
Yeah. So celebrate what was accomplished. You gave it everything you had. Move forward. But make sure that you have a no excuse year this coming year. Like I said, it's kind of like graduating or losing in a national championship. Sometimes you have to celebrate what was accomplished. And simply getting there at times is an accomplishment within itself. Hell, people talk about players going out after you lose a game. Hell, whole cities have entire cities, including my Atlanta Falcons. We had an entire parade in 1998 after we lost the Super Bowl because of what was accomplished. We threw a parade for our lovable Falcons, although they lost the Super Bowl. Tennessee Titans, the very next year, they did the same thing. When the Tennessee Titans lost the Super Bowl, they threw them a parade. hey, thank you for accomplishing this. Thank you for bringing love to our city. Thank you for bringing something for us to believe in. Thank you for giving us a reason to escape all of the troubles and the words within our lives by bringing this magic to us every single day you step on the basketball court, or in the case of my Atlanta Falcons and the Tennessee Titans back in the 90s, what you do on Sundays. So if cities are able to do that for teams who lost Super Bowls and teams who lost certain big games, and they throw them entire parades, the players can go ahead and go out and celebrate what was accomplished. It's hard as penitentiary still to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, especially when you have an owner like James Dolan. Let me say that again. It's hard as penitentiary still in order to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, especially when you have an incompetent owner like James Dolan. So that deserves the celebration within itself for me getting into an Eastern Conference Final. So go ahead, drink up, pull up, do whatever you have to do. But understand next year, there's probably your final opportunity, because if you don't get this done next year, you can best believe them Celtics will be back after next year, because Jason Tatum will be back. And that's not even the whole part. They still got a lot of draft picks. You got to worry about them possibly going to get either Kevin Durant or somebody else to bring on that team while Jason Tatum is away. Well, there's a will, there's a way in Boston. They will find trust me, I know I'm a Laker fan. They're going to bring somebody in there. It's not going to just be a lost season. They're going to bring somebody in there. They're going to shock everybody. But go ahead and go ahead and celebrate what was accomplished. I have no problem with it. Go ahead and do your thing. The cities have Super Bowl. If cities can have parades for Super Bowl losers, then the players can go out and have themselves a couple of glasses of wine about what was accomplished for them making it somewhere. Sometimes the journey and smelling the roses is just that, journey and smelling the roses. It doesn't mean they didn't care.
All right, fellas, let's move on to some football. Harrison, you will go first. What are your thoughts about Aaron Rodgers? Finally, we can put this to bed, him going to Pittsburgh.
It's gonna be the same thing with Russell Wilson. We're not are we gonna be surprised at this point? Like, we already know about this. Aaron Rodgers is a cancer to like any team in the NFL. We can all agree on that. But right now, this is gonna be the Russell Wilson technique. People are so hyped that we got Russell Wilson. Yeah, we're gonna go make the playoffs. Yeah, you did make the playoffs, all right. First round exit. There you go, back in Cancun. And it's gonna happen again. Aaron Rodgers. How many times have I been talking about Aaron Rodgers ever since he went to the Jets? A lot. So you know what, Rodgers? If you want to have your moment, that one shiny moment with Pittsburgh, go right ahead. But right now, you're 41 years old. You're about to be 42 pretty soon. You came off from an Achilles tear, and it's cooked. You're cooked, dude. And listen, I don't care. You're still going to be a 500 team either way. You guys are going to go 9-8 and probably miss the playoffs or barely make the playoffs either way. Because you know why? Because Mike Tomlin is such a tremendous head coach. You have no idea. And honestly, if you want to deal with another cancer to a team, DK Metcalf, have fun with him. But right now, it's so stupid. It's just like, why, Rodgers? Just hang it up. Just hang up. That's it.
BRF or champ?
I'll take this one if you don't mind. BRF. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, have at it. No, you go. Okay. No, you go for it, champ.
The biggest form of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. That is the true definition of insanity. Doing the same things and expecting different results. I cannot say I want to lose weight and then go to the crab buffet every day. I'm just being real.
I mean, yeah, you're being real.
I can't say hey, I want to lose weight, but every time you look at it, like, damn, champ, you at the crab buffet again, choking down all you can eat shrimp all the time, brother. Come on, Pittsburgh, stop doing this. Enough is enough. Every year you draft great receivers, you draft great linebackers, you draft great running backs, you draft great DBs, great defensive line. You're one of the greatest drafted teams in history. Matter of fact, the most Hall of Famers come from the Pittsburgh Steelers. The most. At one point in the 70s, you had 13 Pro Bowlers on one team. At one point in the 90s, although you didn't make the Super Bowl, you had several Hall of Famers on that team, that being Kevin Green, Greg Lloyd, Rod Woodson. You had a lot of Hall of Famers on that team. Quarterback, I always say the greatest position, the most important position in offensive line is offensive line. I stand by that. But you're not going to win with mediocre quarterback play. And you is not going to win with a locker room cancer like a depleted Aaron Rodgers. Now, if this was 2015, hey, that's Aaron Rodgers at his peak. He's not that no more. You would have been better off just saying, hey, Will Howard, we're going to hand you these keys to the Porsche, and we'll see what we can do. And if you flame out, then guess what? We got a draft pick next year. We got a lot of quarterbacks coming out next year that we can pick from. You mean to tell me this? You're going out and picking up Aaron Rodgers, who had a very, very mediocre year. In fact, Zach Wilson won more games in New York than Aaron Rodgers.
It's just sad.
Zach Wilson, who has been labeled a bust thus far in his career. And has lack of maturity. And you just had a draft class that just passed you by. You didn't bother to go get Jackson Dart. You didn't bother to trade up to go get Cam Ward. You didn't bother to trade up to go get Dylan Gabriel. You could have had Shedeur Sanders. Instead, you drafted Will Howard, and you're not even going to hand him the keys to the car. You're going to bring in a washed Aaron Rodgers. If there's anything that could cost Mike Tomlin his job, it's dealing with DK Metcalf and dealing with Aaron Rodgers. And if they get off to a very, very slow start, which I'm hoping they're not, if they get off to like an 0-4 start, mark my words, start looking for the comments about the potential of firing Mike Tomlin.
Oh, I don't think Tomlin's going to get fired, though. I
think he should.
With Aaron Rodgers Aaron Rodgers is a cancer. He's going to eat away this team. He's going to eat this team alive.
Oh, yeah, he's going to eat. Yeah, he is. He is.
And you already have an overly emotional wide receiver in the form of DK Metcalf. That's why they got rid of George Pickens, because they couldn't deal with both of them.
And plus Aaron Rodgers was working out with DK Metcalf. There were times of them working out in the offseason. But champ, you stole, as you always say, great minds think alike. Because you stole exactly what I was gonna say. And I'll say this. After this season, the Pittsburgh Steelers need to fire Mike Tomlin. You talk about the standard, champ. It's not good enough to have all these winning seasons. It's not good enough to barely make the playoffs. And what? It's time to let go of Mike Tomlin, because after 18 years, now if this were Belichick who won you 5-6 Super Bowls, hey, fine. At least I had a reason to keep him all these years, regardless of what you want to say about him regarding Spygate, Deflategate, whatever. But with Mike Tomlin, and not only that, he's known for being a player's choice champ, but at the same time, look at all the controversial players you've had around your time. From Antonio Brown, Antonio Holmes, Juju Smith-Schuster, Claypool, George Pickens. You had to deal with Ben's off-the-field issues during that time. And we already know about one incident, particularly in Milledgeville, Georgia, And but champ, to me, you got to move on from Mike Tomlin. And if you want to go back to the glory days of being what you once were, because before New England tied it, you had the most Super Bowls. Before New England won their 6th Super Bowl, you had the most Super Bowls. I think you need to move on from Mike Tomlin. And with Aaron Rodgers, I don't care. To BRF, and BRF may agree with me or not, I'm tired of talking about Aaron Rodgers. Kind of like how he's tired of talking about the Dallas Cowboys. Because because really, we know he was going to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. We knew that Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers, they wanted to work with each other. The Jets, it was a failure. It was a failure in New York with the New York Jets because we kept hearing, if we had a quarterback, this is going to be the guy.
No.
Not even close. And Aaron Rodgers was okay. He was okay. He was not the Aaron Rodgers of old. I agree with you, champ. If this were Aaron Rodgers back to his glory days in Green Bay, hell, Pittsburgh, you did your homework. You got yourself a top-tier quarterback. Mm-hmm. But you get in an old car, a used car, done, burnt. He's burnt like toast. Move on. He's like mac and cheese that's burnt already. Throw it in the trash. Why would you want to pick up a 41-year-old quarterback that is about to be 42 years old, that is known for having problems and divas, problematic and being known for a diva, and he's becoming more like his predecessor, Brett Favre, every single time?
The thing is, like I said, Pittsburgh, you've been doing this cycle all over again. It's been a revolving.
It's been going on ever since Ben Roethlisberger retired. It's just
exactly. And you kept him too long.
They haven't won a playoff game since 2016. Since 2016. Because remember, the following year, they lost to Jacksonville in the divisional round. 2018, 2019, they missed the playoffs. 2020, we know what happened when they got embarrassed by their little brothers, the Cleveland Browns. They got embarrassed the following year against the Kansas City Chiefs. Can't remember if they made the playoffs. No surprise there. I can't be surprised. I don't know if they made the playoffs in 2022. I don't remember.
I don't think so, but I might be wrong.
Right. 2023, they lost to the Buffalo Bills. No shame to that. You lost to the Ravens. Okay, we expected that. But Pittsburgh, you got to let go of Mike Tomlin. And I understand Mike Tomlin is a black head coach, and there are not too many black head coaches in the NFL. And I understand he's never had a losing record under his watch. But at the same time, you said it yourself, champ, my standard. Pittsburgh, if this were Cleveland, if this were Detroit, if this were some moribund franchise that had Mike Tomlin, I can understand why. Or Cincinnati, because hell, you kept Marvin Lewis all these years, even though he never won one playoff game. But Pittsburgh, you have a rich history of Super Bowls and great players and everything else. And Mike Tomlin has to go. And we talk about how great a leader he is, but at the same time, look at the controversial players that he's had. That speaks to him as a coach as well. Because if you're allowing this type of behavior, then what does that say about you, essentially?
Are you really a player's coach at a certain point, or are you just an enabler at a certain point?
I think it's like the scapegoat personally, but here we are now in 2025. I feel like here's the thing. I don't want Tom. I feel like sorry, Chip, but like I just don't think that. God, it's just like you're right, but at the same time, they're not. They're not going to fire Mike Tomlin. That's the thing about it, because how many? Ever since Big Ben retired, they did Kenny Pickett. Now they're going to do Aaron Rodgers. Rest in peace, Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins, by the way, rest in peace to that guy. Mm-hmm. I mean, Mason Rudolph, like twice.
Yeah.
They use whatever his name, after Big Ben got injured in 2019, they used Duck Hodgins. I mean, I can name like so many quarterbacks off my freaking hand right now because there's so much shenanigans in Pittsburgh.
Again, if you have a rich history like a Pittsburgh, and you know for drafting these great players, and you can get great players out of nowhere, and the problem is the quarterback position, then it's time to take a risk.
And you're taking a risk right now. You're taking Aaron Rodgers right now.
That ain't the kind of risk I'm gonna take. That's kind of
I know this is a bad risk. This is the bad risk. But at the same time,
the risk I'm talking about, Harrison, is buying a brand new car right now in this economy. A brand new car. The risk that we're talking about, what the Pittsburgh Steelers just did, is buying a 2010 BMW right now that has over 100,000 miles on it. That's the type of risk that they just took. They just bought a BMW from CarMax that's a 2010 that has over 100,000 miles, and just because they painted it and gave it a nice paint job, now they're going to take a risk. That's not the type of risk that you take. That is a car right now, Aaron Rodgers, with a lot of mileage on it, with a lot of, and not only that, he needs an oil change all the time. He needs an oil change every 1,000 miles. So that's not the type of risk you take. You take a risk by going to get a brand new car. You're going to make the same payments on it at the end of the day. You're going to have to go through growing pains with it at the end of the day. You're going to have to coach them up at the end of the day. So you might as well trade up and go get you a quarterback or let Will Howard do it. Trying to do this after this young man has burned bridges every single where he's went, got Robert Saleh fired, and everybody knows it. Pushed him, and like we said, me and PSP had a discussion. If that had been any other position other than the quarterback position that pushed a coach, the media would have lost their minds. They would have went mad. But because Aaron Rodgers is a quarterback, they let him get away with it. And the thing is, like I said, with these problematic players that he's having, at what point do you say, I'm not a player's coach, I'm just an enabler? At what point do you say, I'm not coaching these players as hard as I need to coach them? It can't be everybody that has a problem. In the past 20 years, you've gotten rid of almost 5 all-star receivers. You've gotten rid of Antonio Brown, Santonio Holmes, Chase Claypool. You've gotten rid of all of those players. At what point do we point back to the coach?
That tells you the decision-making, champ, and also the Steelers' ownership. That tells you about your lack of judgment as well. The bad decisions that you're making. You mentioned the car situation, champ. Champ, to me, I mean, I'm trying to get a beautiful girlfriend. I'm trying to get me a lotto, and instead I end up getting a Mariah Mills. That's how I feel at this point with the Steelers with Aaron Rodgers.
Why? I want to talk about that topic, but at the same time, we're not in that topic right now.
I can't breathe. Lord have mercy. No, you did just do that. That is. Whew, Lord have mercy.
Oh my God! But
that was priceless.
Well, what do you want me to say, Chip? I tried
to keep it in the car terms, as the BMW stuff. Some people just go get BMWs just to say I got a BMW. But that's what I tried to keep it close to the chest.
You know what it's like? You just like bought it you buy I feel like it's like a car that can't start. That is what like Aaron Rodgers is right now. He can start, but he doesn't know how to drive. That's what I feel about Aaron Rodgers right now. But Rodgers, if you want to have fun in Pittsburgh, go right ahead. But right now you're gonna be mediocre as frick. As AF.
You can curse, Harrison.
I can. Oh, you can. Oh, wait.
Go ahead. I don't care.
Oh, you're probably going to be mediocre as fuck. Fuck. But I don't know, man. It's just like.
No, I mean,
Is it about time? Is it about time to fire the GM too?
You got to ask yourself if you're Pittsburgh, because if you kept them all this time and if you still making these types of decisions, what does it say?
You know what?
It shows you that you do have the talent, but at the same time, you still want to put.
In the words of Maya Angelou, the late great Maya Angelou, rest her soul. If someone shows you who they are the first time, believe them. Have we seen this more than once with Pittsburgh?
You know what? And the thing is, the Pittsburgh Steelers, their front office is so media friendly at a certain point. You got to ask yourself this. We give Jerry Jones HE double hockey sticks for all of the decisions that he's made. Do y'all ever see the media pointing out the crap that the Pittsburgh Steelers have been doing the past couple of years? Because you can best believe this. If Jerry Jones went almost 6 years without a quarterback, a legitimate quarterback on his team, they would eat him alive and spit him out and eat him again in the media. But because it's Pittsburgh, they don't say a word.
But Jerry, on the other hand, yeah, you signed freaking Javonte Williams, scrub, Miles Sanders, scrub, and you should have re-signed Rico Dowd, who went to, my team, obviously.
But he got criticized, rightfully so.
Oh, yeah, 100%. They should have drafted Gentry. No, you drafted an offensive lineman.
But to Champ's point,
I like Tyler Booker though. That I can get with that though. Tyler Booker's gonna be a good lineman. I'm not gonna knock him for that. That was a good pick on their part.
Well, yeah. But here's the thing though. They have drafted all the offensive line named Tyler.
Oh well.
That's the thing.
But to Champ's point though, as far as with the draft picks and everything else, it's no surprise. But to BRF, I know you don't want to talk about this, but my audience, they want me to talk about it. Your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers to Pittsburgh?
In the great words of Bubba Dub, trash. I mean, the writing was on the wall that he was going to go to Pittsburgh, but it's like, I would have liked this move a little more had George Pickens not got traded. But now your only reliable receivers are DK Metcalf and Pat Freiermuth. Shout out to Muth. He's been a heck of a talent since he got drafted, got to Pittsburgh. He's been a heck of a talent. Probably one of the more underrated tight ends out there. But man, I knew it was coming. But even still, like, I saw that that it was made official, and he was signing with him. The only thing I could just say was, damn. I mean, okay, Pittsburgh. I mean, hey, if you, I don't know, hey, if you think you can pull out another 9, 8, 10, and 7, because that's what I feel like it's gonna be. I mean, it'd be one thing if this was like peak of his powers, Aaron Rodgers, who could tote the team on his back and get him and single-handedly get him to the playoffs. And I mean, if you get 20, you get like peak of his powers 2014 to 2016 Aaron Rodgers. You know what I'm saying? You could put anybody back there behind him at running back, and you can have whatever plethora of wide receivers around him, whatever core around him, and he's gonna get you somewhere. But this is not that Aaron Rodgers. This is nowhere near that Aaron Rodgers. And we got to think that New York Jets offense. Just looking at it on paper. It's more talented now than what they got. It's more talented now than what they got in Pittsburgh. And he couldn't do squat. And he couldn't do squat with the offensive weapons that the New York Jets have. Now I will say this: the offensive line in Pittsburgh is probably better than what they had with the Jets, but the skill position around them is worse. So it's like it's kind of like you win some, you lose some, So I don't know what I'm expecting from this team. I mean, I feel like this season just might be the ultimate TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith carry job in order for them to really do anything. Because like it's not just going to be on TJ Watt. It's going to be him and Alex Highsmith to really, even though they're technically outside linebackers, they really need to be the true bookends of this defense and really set the tone and really get them to where they want to be. I mean, regardless of how we feel about the Aaron Rodgers signing, they want to make the playoffs. They want to give themselves a shot to go for a championship, regardless of who the quarterback is. But I just feel like there's going to be more onus on the defense to really like step up from last year, because they had, I mean, when they were on defensively, but when they were bad last year, they were, oh gosh, they were bad. And on top of that, like the Pittsburgh offense would like, it would come and go. Like they would have games they would just absolutely run through people, and then they would have games, they would have your typical Arthur Smith type of called games where it's like stupid play calling and not scoring the amount of points you feel like you should on a weekly basis or on a Sunday. So I don't know what to expect. Like Aaron Rodgers and Arthur Smith, this is going to be an interesting combination to say the least, because I don't feel like Aaron Rodgers at this stage of his career fits what Arthur Smith does. And I'm saying this stage in his career because peak Aaron Rodgers is perfect for the Arthur Smith offense. His ability to move around in his pocket, his mobility, his out of structure ability, just making all the throws. And don't get me wrong, from what I've seen, I mean, the arm strength looked like it's still there. Don't get it twisted. I mean, it's not like what it was. I mean, the arm strength looked like he still got it. He can still chunk it. Don't get me wrong. But the mobility is not there. So it kind of takes away a lot of what Arthur Smith wants to do. And the thing is, he doesn't necessarily have the running back room to really compensate for Aaron Rodgers not being as mobile as he once was. And then, like I said, you trade George Pickens. So your wide receiver room is like DK and Calvin Austin. And those are really like the only two recognizable names I know in their receiving core. So it's like, what are you just like, where are we gonna go? What are we gonna do? You can't necessarily rely on Mike Tomlin still being a player's coach and still demanding the most out of his players and the players giving it to him. You can't rely on that forever, because at the end of the day, you still got to have a good collection of talent in order to do anything and make any type of noise. And this is like astonishing for me to say. This is like one of the least talented Pittsburgh Steelers teams I've seen in a while. And I mean, particularly in the receiving, more so on the offensive side of the ball, because they don't really have really guys on the offensive side of the ball that really scare you. And even honestly, I hate to say it, it kind of includes DK Metcalf to a certain extent. I mean, he's good, don't get me wrong, but he's not putting like the type of just fear in defensive coordinator's heart that you would expect a wide receiver of his size, of his speed, and of his ability. He's not putting that type of fear you would expect a guy like him to put into defensive coordinators every week. So now it's just a matter of who's going to be the guy. Like, can Aaron Rodgers really do this? And honestly, I don't see it. I don't see it. I mean, the first month of the season is going to tell really a lot of the story as far as what the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be in 2025. Because if they start 0-4, I'm kind of like Harrison here. I don't think they're gonna fire Mike Tomlin, but I do think the fans are gonna be like, okay, we get it. Look, I mean, it's almost gonna feel like the fans are gonna kind of say like the writing was on the wall. I mean, you keep doing just enough. You keep doing just enough, and you make it feel like we don't have to really all improve all that much. When in reality, you should have did a lot more than you did in the offseason to really make this team better. So you can't keep getting away with making the playoffs every year. At some point, you got to really take strides to make a team better. And Pittsburgh, you know, I don't know. I don't know what to expect for them. I still think. I mean, are they still the third best team in the AFC North? I think they're the third best team in the AFC North right now. I think they're behind Baltimore and they're behind Cincinnati. I mean, can being third in the AFC North get you into the playoffs? I mean, we've seen it happen before. I don't know about this year though, because this Pittsburgh team to me isn't as good as a lot of those other teams have been. So, gosh, hey, more power to them. I mean, if they think Aaron Rodgers can find some of that magic and get them to the promised land, then by all means go for it. From what I saw with the Jets having a more talented offense, I don't see it. I just don't see it.
This doesn't make any sense. I mean, other than attention, other than Aaron Rodgers getting his clicks and whatever, this is a bad move. I'm sorry. I'll use the analogy and I'll use it again. I just came from all these divorces and all these relationships. I want a top tier person, and I end up getting a Mariah Mills.
Jesus Christ.
That's all I
Real Mary. Real Mary.
I wanted Scarlett Johansson. I wanted any type of woman, and I end up getting Mariah Mills. That's what
They thought they were getting perfect teeth, and they ended up with wisdom.
Wow, thanks.
These are
I got
elf.
my wisdom teeth out a couple months ago. Oh,
fellas,
praise the Lord, Jesus. Oh, God.
for time to turn into babyface or heel. Now, for those who may not know what babyface heel means in wrestling terminology, babyface means a good guy, hero. Heel means a bad guy, villain. And tweener is someone in between babyface and heel. So I came up with a list of athletes and celebrities, and myself in the panel, we're going to decide whether they are a babyface or a heel. Harrison, you don't have to be involved in this one. That's up to you.
You know what? After that, I feel like I want to go to bed after you said. Wait, can I talk about the Mariah Mills situation for a second?
Go ahead for a little bit.
Listen. I'm gonna do is to get prayers up to Zion right now, because I know I'm praying for Zion right now, because this guy he is in some deep crap right now after the whole situation with Mariah Mills a couple years ago, right? I think he was before he was a rookie in the NBA, correct? Zion, if you were me right now, run for your damn life, boy. Run for it, because I don't want to deal with her creepy ass. I cannot deal with her anymore, dude. And I don't know if you've been seeing this on TikTok or not, because they literally are roasting the hell out of her on TikTok, and it is funny because
Even Tony Busby said no. Even Tony Busby said no.
Exactly. And I'm glad that they're roasting her, because you know why? Because Zion is probably making more money than you, honey. He's definitely probably making more money than you sitting on the bench, and guess what? Try to work his ass off every single day to get healthy. Well, and also the whole situation with Cardi B too. With Diggs, I know this. We are talking about cancer to teams right now, but I'll bet you like $100 on the line that I think that Diggs is going to be a cancer to the Patriots. I just have a feeling, bro. I just have a feeling that the Patriots are not going to be good this year. Are they going to be better than the Jets? 50-50. But right now, I feel like the Patriots are not going to be good this year. Probably 5 or 6 games, man. I don't trust Diggs. I think he's a cancer.
Oh, gosh.
I think that him and Zion have something in common. Yeah. If you know, you know. Wink, wink.
I am trying so hard not to say the line that just popped up in my head right now.
Say the line.
Oh God! You daring me? You daring me? Ain't you?
No pipe bombs. No, don't fight, bro. Don't fight, bro.
I'm trying, bro. I'm trying so hard. It's not like vulgar or anything like that, but I'm trying so hard. I'm trying.
It sounds like to me you want to say a bunch of shit that's on your mind.
All I'm gonna say, Zion got with that woman. He thought he was getting the love TKO, but instead he got the one hit acquittal.
May God have mercy on your soul.
God have mercy on us.
May God
Jesus,
have mercy.
Criminy Christmas, but that's
He went from Teddy Pendergrass. He went from Teddy Pendergrass to 3-6 Mafia and just like that. Whoo! Bless his soul.
Zion. Next time, choose Angela White, bro.
Oh, hell no! Oh no! That's even worse. Oh my!
I mean, she would have been way. I mean, if you're going to dive in that field of woman, she is at least way more acceptable. Way more acceptable if you're going to dive into that field.
You know what? I'll probably take
because he dove all the way in the ocean on that, and he ended up right in the Bermuda Triangle. Like he is lost.
You almost made PFP choke up his drink, bro. Shit.
Lost.
You know what? You can call me crazy. I'm taking Violet Myers over Angela White personally, but
bro.
No, but moving on.
Moving on.
But PSP, you know what? I don't know if we're gonna talk about any more football here in a second, but I'm probably gonna head out here. By the way, so you know what?
Always a pleasure having you on the podcast.
Hey, listen, I'll be back. You know what? We're going back to back weeks. How about that? We're gonna go back to back.
Sounds good. Weeks. Definitely.
Right. Love you.
Holding
guys
you too, homie man. It's good having you back, bro.
I love you guys. Peace out.
Always a pleasure having the great Harrison on the pod. Lord, Zion, stay away from Mariah Mills.
I'm sorry. It just you know how it is sometimes. I tell people at work all the time, like the filter between my brain and my mouth, it ain't what it was when I was in my 20s. It ain't what it was in my 20s. Like you go through some stuff, you experience things, and it's like, you know what? Sometimes it's okay to let it go. It's okay to let it go sometimes. It's okay.
All right, guys. For those who may not know what babyface heel means in wrestling terminology, again, babyface means good guy, hero. Heel means bad guy, villain. Tweener means in between babyface and heel. So I came up with a list of athletes. Myself, BRF, Undisputed World Champ, will decide whether they are a babyface or heel. The first one is Tim Duncan. Now, Tim Duncan is a babyface in my eyes. No off the field, no off the court issues whatsoever. Consummate professional, plays hard. He doesn't have a lot to say. I get it. Big fundamental, plays in a small market like San Antonio. But the San Antonio Spurs with the Popovich, Duncan, Kawhi, Bruce Bowen, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Boris Diaw, all those players, they were like the New England Patriots of the NBA. Tim Duncan
good
wins in bunch. Yes, Tim Duncan. In some ways, he may not be Tom Brady as the GOAT, but if you want to make an argument, Tim Duncan, top 5 of all time, I ain't got no problem with it. Just like Tom Brady, works hard, studies hard, plays hard, doesn't really have a lot to say, not really the most emotional type of guy. The only time I've ever seen Tim Duncan emotional, do you remember Champ BRF, Joey Crawford, when he ejected Tim Duncan from a game all because Tim Duncan was on the bench laughing?
Yes.
Yeah, that was what he did. Not Tim Duncan, the ref. What you did was false, and I'm not even a San Antonio Spurs fan.
That's ridiculous. I mean, you're ejecting a player, and he's on the bench, and he's laughing. It's not like he said anything derogatory. It's not like you don't even know what he's laughing about, and you kicked him out of a game. That's the only controversy I've ever heard regarding Tim Duncan. You don't really hear any negative things about Tim Duncan, the human being or the person. Tim Duncan back then was the Jokic. Jokic, you look at nowadays. You mentioned a great analogy, champ. You've mentioned this before. Jokic doesn't have a lot to say. Jokic plays in a small market. Jokic is as accomplished, but at the same time, he no controversy, no nothing, no issues whatsoever. So I have to say, babyface with Tim Duncan. He's in the discussion. He's the greatest power forward of all time. Says all the right things. No controversy. No issues whatsoever. Tim Duncan is all about team. Tim Duncan is all about the team concept. He's willing to make sacrifices. Later in the season, he was able to extend his career. He lost weight because he knew in order for him to have a longer career, he had to take pressure off his knees and his joints, whatever. I ain't got nothing negative to say to Tim Duncan. He is, to me, the Undertaker of the NBA. Just like Undertaker doesn't have a lot to say as far as with mic skills, but behind the scenes, Taker's about business. Interesting story, champ, because you've mentioned this all the time. Shawn Michaels. Remember WrestleMania 14 between Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold Steve Austin? Had Shawn not dropped the belt to Steve Austin, Taker would have done something. You've mentioned that. You've mentioned that multiple times on my pod and other pods. Because Taker was about business. Tim Duncan is about business. Tim Duncan is about doing whatever it takes. That's why I call him the Undertaker. Doesn't get enough credit. I believe he should be more in the discussions with the top 5. I said, remember, champ, we had a discussion. Me, you, Luis, Casual, Tim Duncan or Shaq. Who was the better player? Who had the better career? I said Tim Duncan. Because Tim Duncan was able to make the most out of it compared to Shaq later in his career. And Shaq had a hell of a career. Let me be clear. But I felt like Shaq, had he taken better care of his health and his fitness and his nutrition, Shaq could have been even more. He was still a great player. He definitely lived up to the expectations, but I felt like he could have been even more. So with all the reasons that I said with Tim Duncan, babyface. Whoever wants to go.
I'll take it this time. Yeah, I'll take it. I mean, how do you call him anything else but a babyface? Tim Duncan is the babyface in the truest sense of the word. Like, never got into trouble. Never heard any scoffs of him with the front office or his coaching staffs. Like, he was always the quintessential team guy. And then not only that, is the greatest power forward of all time and in top 5 of all time conversations. So I mean, he was just he's the personification of consistency, of staying true to himself, and just like he is. I feel like in terms of player wise, he is Mr. San Antonio Spur. So I feel like there's no other way you can analyze Tim Duncan other than the fact that he's a babyface. He was just the perfect. I mean, he was just the perfect example of just what it means as far as like what the San Antonio Spurs was trying to accomplish, what they were trying to put forth, as far as just what they wanted their franchise to be. He was the front runner of that. He was the leader of it. He drove it. He drove it home. And I have all the respect in the world for Tim Duncan. And for me, he is just the quintessential what it means to be just one of the ultimate baby faces. So yeah, for me, it's a no-brainer. Tim Duncan's a baby face.
All right, hold on real quick. Sorry about that. Almost got Undisputed Champ off the second. Probably he got a little distracted because of the Mariah Mills joke I made earlier.
Oh boy. Boy, we ran that one like ooh.
Champ.
He's an undisputed babyface. To be honest with you, this is no disrespect towards Tim Duncan. He didn't even have the personality that really even invited trouble. It's just like he's the quiet kid in class that makes all A's, that was on the varsity team, that had his letter and was the valedictorian of his high school. That's what he was to San Antonio. And it's just like you really never heard about him in any type of shambles, any type of scuffles on or off the court. He was just a model citizen. Unfortunately, he didn't play in a big enough market, and his personality wasn't big enough for him to be the face of the league. You know, it's just unfortunate of that, because that's exactly what you wanted out of a player, to be the face of the league. You know, clean cut, didn't have to worry about, you know, him being off the being in stuff he wasn't supposed to be off the field. I mean, end up going back because, you know, remember, he was about to leave San Antonio in 2000. You know, he was about to leave and go to Orlando, but, you know, because of Doc Rivers, yeah, as usual, him and his bloopers, he ended up going back to San Antonio, and the rest was history. But that's probably the only if that's the only controversial thing that comes out of your career, that you almost left the team because somebody else was trying to back up a Brinks truck to your lawn and dump every dollar out of there. If that's the only controversial thing that ever happens in your entire career, you've won. You've won. And so Tim Duncan, man, the consummate professional. That's the guy who you hire as the CEO of your company. That's the guy who you bring in and say, this is who you're supposed to be like. That is the poster boy for what an NBA player, if you're a corporate guy. If you look at a picture of Tim Duncan and you look at his career, you say, this is what an NBA player is, especially if you're trying to market in corporate America. That's what you put there. I mean, and him and Dave, it is so ironic. They went from they transitioned from two of the most clean-cut guys, arguably in the history of the league. You transition from David Robinson, who was a Christian to the core and had the military values of the Navy, who went to Annapolis, which was a service academy, which is hard as hell to get into. Believe me, I tried to get into a service academy. In order to get into a service academy, you have to be nominated by a government official in order to get in there. It just can't be your grades as high. You have to be nominated by a government official in order to get in there. And they have to nominate you. So the transition from a guy who served in the military, had great Christian values, who was a credit to his community, that being David Robinson, to transition from him to Tim Duncan, that was probably the greatest transition in any franchise's history. If you're talking about being a face of the franchise, usually you don't get that clean of a transition because it's just like they didn't miss a beat. They transitioned from David Robinson, who was the most clean-cut player in the world. Then they transitioned and went right to Tim Duncan. You don't get a cleaner transition than that.
And they got 2 championships during the transition. That's what makes it crazy. They got 2.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But when you look at Tim Duncan, you look at the Spurs, they play the right way. Team constant, ball unity, movement, everything else. And Tim Duncan, look, man, like I said, he's the Undertaker of basketball. Taker doesn't have a lot to say. Neither does Tim Duncan. But behind the scenes, they're all about business. And they will do whatever it takes to help the business. And Tim Duncan and Taker, last time I checked, they have integrity. So that's one thing we can all agree on. Now, the next one, Michael Vick.
That's a good one.
I agree.
I agree too.
He's a tweener. The reason is this, and I'm going to give you an example. I never forget when we posted that Michael Vick video.
I know exactly
when we was talking about him first getting that job at Norfolk State University. People still hold his off the field issues against him to this very day. They still hold that against him. Regardless of the fact that he's paid his debt to society, he's been an advocate for kids everywhere. He's been an advocate. He's opened up boys clubs. He's opened up schools. He's been an example, a prime example of what you need to be as far as turning everything around. And the thing is, usually when people get in trouble, when a lot of these guys get in trouble, you don't hear a lot of accountability for them. It's always some freaking body else's fault. I never forget the interview he did with Jim Moore, his former coach. And he said, and his coach asked him, Vic, is there anything that I could have done to keep you out of trouble? And he said, no. He said, the best thing that ever happened to me is I went to Fort Leavenworth. I had to go through that because I was arrogant, because I was not studying, because I was not doing what I was supposed to. He said, I had to go through that. And that was the only way I was going to get my life back on track. Now, to everybody in common, that's enough for you to not only take accountability, take responsibility, redeem yourself, come back and get another $100 million contract.
Let's not forget how good you were your first year in Philadelphia.
Yes. Get another $100 million contract. Because remember, at one point, he was the highest paid player in the league. NFL? When he was in Atlanta. He was the highest paid player in the league. But for you to come back from that, come back from what you did, from what happened in your personal life, what happened off the field, and everybody just counted you out, for you to come back and not only have a comeback player of the year, miracle in the Meadowlands. And not only that, I mean, hate to bring this up with that Monday Night Football game in the Washington Commanders. Woo! That was nasty work right there. But for a lot of people, his redemption story, his way of redeeming himself will never be enough because they're going to harp back on that. They're going to harp back on that, unfortunately. Although there have been players that had did a hell of a lot worse than what Vic did. Now, what he did was wrong. What he did was wrong. Let's not undersell that within the least. I have a pet that's very, very close to me. Y'all see me put him on the internet and stuff like that. So, my little dog, Rory, y'all know how she is. She always barking, eating up all my food out of the refrigerator, but I digress. But when it comes to dogs, well, fur babies, what we call them, a lot of them see them as human. And when you hurt a pet or a fur baby, it's kind of equivalent in a lot of people's mind of you hurting a human or a child. And I don't think that the world, in a lot of people's minds, the masses, is ever going to forget that. To a lot of people, Vic, and to me as well, Vic is the ultimate redemption story of how you can be arrogant, you can be prickish, you can go around here thinking you got it all, thinking you know everything, thinking I'm paid in full, the law don't apply to me. To having that moment where you don't just have to eat humble pie, they take it out the oven, they take it fresh out the oven, and they push the shit in your face and tell you to eat it. So that was a whole nother level of humble pie. They took it right out the stove while it was still hot and threw it in his face and told him, eat it. Or in the great words of Triple H, you had to eat crap and learn to like the taste of it. In that case, you had to eat the whole bag. Because Leavenworth, trust me, ain't no joke. Leavenworth is no joke. Trust me, I used to be in the military, and it is a soldier's worst nightmare to get thrown in Leavenworth. So that redemption story for a lot of people is an example to the world of how you can eat your humble pie and how you can be humble from then on. And not only that, be example for a lot of kids. Not to mention, man, look, him and his teammate, Deshaun Jackson, his former teammate, Deshaun Jackson, 2 HBCUs, Delaware State and Norfolk State, on October the 31st, 2 HBCUs are about to play in Lincoln Financial Field. I'm hoping that's televised. I'm hoping that it's televised because I'm gonna have my eyes glued. Even if my Georgia Bulldogs are playing that day, I'm gonna have my eyes glued to the television if they televise that game. But for you to come back from a situation like that, and he'll not just that, a situation that you admit you put yourself in, allowing God to shake your tree of all the loose fruit and all the bad fruit that's in your life. Remember, he had to let his homeboy go. If you watch the documentary, he had to let his best friend. Remember, at one point, his best friend wasn't even on the team at Virginia Tech, and they let his best friend have a dorm room. He wasn't even on the team, but Coach Beamer let him have a dorm room. He was allowed on campus, on the sideline and everything. His friend Quarters. He wasn't even on the team. But for you to come back from being arrogant, from being cocky, to being, just thinking that you know it all. And sometimes we all get caught up in our own little suite, man. Everybody. It's not just a humble person was once an arrogant person, in my humble opinion. Because they had to deal with the arrogance, and they know how harmful that arrogance and being a butt can be. So the thing is, for you to come back from that from the highest to highs to putting yourself in the lowest of the lows, you are a prime example in American society and the society in general of how you can redeem yourself and how you can be a model citizen and how outside of anything, people don't hear so much as a peep out of you outside of the game of football, outside of mentoring young kids, outside of mentoring and being a credit to your community and opening up boys and girls club and being a main spokesperson for the Humane Society. But as I always say, 1,000 attaboys is equipped by one you know what. And unfortunately, his case off the field was his you know what. And that's what the masses is going to remember, unfortunately. And that is why he's a tweener.
Could have said it any better. Tweener. It's unanimous.
Yes.
Michael Vick's redemption story is one of the greatest stories. From not only athlete, but just human beings, because the epic fall from grace, and for him, redemption. And for those who may not want to forgive him, who may not feel like, he didn't pay his debt to society, to your point, champ, Leavenworth.
It's Leavenworth.
18 months. And if that isn't enough of a guy to say, you know what, I paid my debt to society, the legal system, I've contributed to the Humane Society, I've been an ambassador as far as helping young kids on and off the football field and in life. If that isn't enough to say, you know what, I've changed, I've learned to err of my ways, I've come so far in my life, what will? And if I'm Michael Vick, I can't be concerned about people who are unwilling to forgive me. That's up to you. But at the end of the day, I will forgive him because I do believe that forgiveness is the best way. Not just for the person who did wrong, but also for yourself. And I think Michael Vick has earned and deserved a second chance because since his time in Leavenworth, you haven't really heard any off the field issues. Nothing. But meanwhile, and I'll bring this up, champ, and I know we've had this discussion before of double standards. There's a certain quarterback we mentioned as far as babyface heel, Brett Favre. He will never, in my opinion, will never spend a dime in jail. And we all know what he's been accused of.
Yes. But at the same time, like I said, you can't do certain things.
No,
to
but
keep your job.
we know
You
that.
can't
Oh,
do
we
certain
know.
things. We can't
We
do
know.
certain things to still keep your job. You know, it will
No,
leave.
we know. Oh no, we know that. I know that you can't. You
But
tell me all the time you can't do what the white men do and think you can keep your job. But at the same time, it's still shocking to me that with Brett Favre, even with these allegations, you mentioned about the low market in Green Bay, they're gonna shrug it because they look at Brett Favre, the football man, the family man, knowing what Brett Favre has been accused of. And Champ, you and I'm quite sure BRF, we saw that Favre documentary on Netflix, and we knew what he was accused of regarding with Jen Sturger with the New York Jets. There was a lot more stuff.
what's so funny about that? It is not just a race thing. I'm just gonna be real. A lot of guys have did a lot worse of stuff than Mike Vick. Remember Dante Stallworth?
Driving under the influence, and he killed the pedestrian.
You remember Jamal Lewis got held in contempt, got held up because this dude was literally moving stuff and trying to keep it clean for the audience. He was literally moving stuff, and he's a professional football player. So I don't think it's much of a race thing. It's just people selective. I think it has a lot to do with people's selective memory. We remember what we want to remember. Because like I said, Dante Stallworth, Jamal Lewis. Let's not forget about Ben Roethlisberger. We mentioned that earlier.
Greg Hardy.
Greg
Hardy. Remember Greg Hardy?
Greg Hardy. Yeah, we remember. I don't think it's so much as a race thing. That's like I said, you can't do certain things and still keep your job. I think it's a lot about people's selective memory. And the thing is, Greg Hardy just the other day, he just got arrested again for the same thing. And the thing is, we remember what we would like to remember. We remember, hey, Brett Favre was the hero. We ain't seen that to happen yet. They remember Dante Stallworth was a part of that New England Patriots team that went undefeated. They remember that Jamal Lewis, ran for a whole bunch of miles, a whole bunch of yards, that 2,000-yard season. The fact that he ran into a Super Bowl on the offensive side of the ball, because outside of him and Shannon Sharp, they didn't have any offense.
All I'm saying is, Champ, just like we remember Vic for the bad things, we should also remember Vic for some of the good things he did in his NFL career. And you and BRF would certainly know this for a fact in Atlanta, the Michael Vick experience.
It was lovable. That was a time that I wish that I could turn back the hands of time and be grown during that time. I was merely a teenager when Michael Vick was in there. Everybody was talking about him coming out of Virginia Tech. Everybody was talking about him. And we was a few years removed from that Super Bowl run that we had in 98. And so for him to come to Atlanta, him being a black quarterback in the city of Atlanta, which was the mecca of hip hop during the time, the mecca, I don't care what anybody says, in the 2000s, early 2000s, Atlanta was the mecca of hip hop and R&B. For him to be in that city and bring back that excitement and being a quarterback of his caliber and just as exciting, it was nothing short of being, not just that, indulging in the hip hop community. Remember, he was in T.I.'s video.
Rubber Band Man.
Yes.
He was the NFL's Allen Iverson.
Yes, and not only that, every time you heard rap lyrics in the early 2000s, especially with Killer Mike, first round pick like Michael Vick, everybody wanted to be Mike Vick. Everybody wanted to play with Mike Vick on Madden 2004 when he was at his peak. But the thing is, like I said, everybody has that selective memory in their head, man. And I think that has more to do with it than anything. Let's just say we go out right now, everybody will probably remember if we go out and, let's go to, if we go to a club in New Jersey, all of us meet up and go out, and they got you on tape punching somebody, or me on tape punching somebody. Depending on how light we are in the first place, they may or may not choose to remember that.
But the bigger you are,
you see, everybody has selective remembrance when it comes to certain things. I think it has very little to do with the R word than it does people want to remember who they want to remember doing wrong. And I think that Mike Vick was the poster boy of people having that selective memory. When you look at the 2000s, guys was getting in trouble left and right. As a matter of fact, Nate Newton, who was an offensive lineman for the Dallas Cowboys, yes, he got in trouble for the same thing. That's probably what's keeping him out of the Hall of Fame right now. But because Vic was so high profile, because he was I don't care what anybody tells you, Vic was the face of the league at one point. He was
highest paid player in the NFL.
Yeah, the biggest attraction in the NFL. Because he was the face of the league, because of his stature, because him bringing back a team that was in just the dumps after the Super Bowl, after we had that bad year for a few years after the Super Bowl, because he was the highest paid, he was the face of the league. People are going to remember that a hell of a lot more than guys who did a hell of a lot worse. And I think it has very, very little to do with the R word, but it has a lot to do with selective memory. It's like, I'm going to remember this guy for what he did because I really didn't particularly care for him. But I'm not going to remember what this guy didn't do because guess what? I was a fan of his. That's just what I believe it is. Because the thing is, Vernon Maxwell, people don't remember the fact that he went in the stands and punched the guy in the face. We only remember right about now what he's doing on All the Smoke. You know, people only remember what they want to remember depending on how likable or unlikable that they deemed you to be. That's what I truly believe. And depending on how likable or unlikable that you're deemed to be, it's how you're going to go down in the history book. You don't believe that? Look at Dame Dash. Look at what he did for the record business. Look at what he did for Rockefeller. Look what he did for hip hop. But because he was deemed as unlikable, people paint him as a villainous figure. People only remember you based on how likable or unlikable that you were in their minds. Not necessarily the masses mind, but in their minds. So yeah, that's what I believe when it comes to Vic and a lot of these other guys. Because like I said, we've seen guys go down bad for a hell of a lot worse. A hell of a lot worse. We've seen some of the worst things happen in the NFL. Remember, I brought up a couple weeks ago during the football season, when football season was about to, remember the Kareem Hunt situation? When his first go around, people don't even bring that up no more.
Because even though he was high profile, not like Michael Vick, he wasn't the face of the NFL. He didn't play the quarterback position. He wasn't on the cover of Madden, nor the highest paid player in the NFL. Yeah. I understand all those circumstances, champ, and I think that's on us as a society. We have to hold each other the same way. But unfortunately, to your point, double standards. With Brett Favre, it's no surprise that he's no matter what, even with the Mississippi welfare situation or the situation with Jen Sturger. And people have forgotten this about Favre, though. How was he in Bankhead?
They used to call him Bankhead.
He ain't earned that nickname for nothing.
They used to call him Bankhead Brett. What? No, my dad. No, we live in Columbus, you know, and stuff filters down real quick because back then you had to be on the street back then. And I never forget, my dad came back home from Atlanta. He used to drive stuff. He said, "You know, I saw damn Brett Favre up in Bankhead getting drunk." He said, "Hello," I'm like, "What?" He said, "They call him Bankhead Brett for a reason." I'm like, "What the hell?" But, yeah, they used to call him Bankhead Brett, Decatur Brett, because he was all in the neighborhoods, in the black neighborhoods, out there getting drunk, getting lit up like a Christmas tree. And that's what they used to call him. I mean, they used to just, at one point he was so, and he even said it himself, he was so addicted to opioids that he couldn't even go to sleep after he took them. That's how come he ended up having to go to
the rehab.
Go to rehab. But like I said, it depends on the selective memory of It depends on our perception of people at a certain point. We remember what we want to remember. It's just like people will tell you with certain singers, man, y'all ain't gonna never let that go. But then they'll out of that same breath, they'll bring up another singer's transgressions.
Impressions.
Yeah. You know, they want you to forget certain things about their big time guys. But when you talk about this guy, nah, man, remember when he did that? Yeah. But you remember when the main guy who's doing this thing right now, remember he did this? So yeah, I think it's about how likable that you are, how likable that you're deemed by the masses, and what people want to remember about you. If people want to remember the worst about you, they're gonna remember it. If people want to remember the best about you, they're gonna remember it. And there's nothing you can do about it. That's what I believe those double standards come from. I believe people have their selective memory. It's called we like to call it selective amnesia, if you ask me.
Yeah, I remember that. BRF, is there anything you want to add regarding Michael Vick before we move on to the next person?
You know what I do? When I think about Michael Vick and I think about his career and I think about the legacy that he left in Atlanta, Michael Vick to me is one of the greatest what ifs in the history of the National Football League from the standpoint of if we got if between 2001 and 2006, if we got 2010 Philly Mike Vick in Atlanta, what could have happened? And we're talking like a Michael Vick that was fully focused on the game, that was studying the playbook, that was honing his craft as an NFL quarterback to really be the best he could possibly be. If we got a Michael Vick who was focused in Atlanta, because I'm not even gonna lie, I was one of those who was saying, even though as much as I will ride with the thought of Peyton Manning being the second greatest quarterback in the National Football League ever, in my opinion, I will ride with that. At one point, I thought Michael Vick was going to get one before him because I just felt like the trajectory was there. I felt like the trajectory was there. They were already building. They were building that team around him properly. You got the defense that could get after the quarterback, that could get sacks, that could get him the ball back. You had a killer running game. You had the DVD running game with him, Ward Dunn, and TJ Duckett. That was by far the best running game in the league with him basically at the helm of it. You had a decent offensive line. I mean, Algie Crumbler at the time, one of the most underrated tight ends ever. If y'all don't know who Algie Crumbler is, watch tape of that man. That man was so good and bailed Mike out of so many bad plays. It's not even funny. But like I said, I feel like he's one of the biggest what ifs because we always think about what could have happened in Atlanta had he stayed focused and had he stayed out of trouble. Would Matt Ryan even be in Atlanta had Michael Vick was fully focused and perfected his craft as an NFL quarterback with the Atlanta Falcons before that reality check hit him and going to Leavenworth and ultimately getting signed by the Philadelphia Eagles, but then having a guy like Andy Reid, who is a guru, who is an offensive mastermind, who you knew if Michael Vick was focused, he was going to get the best out of him. I feel like Michael Vick in Atlanta is one of the biggest what ifs in the history of the National Football League because it's one of those what could have been had, like I said, had you got the post Leavenworth Vick before it even got to that point. So this is what I say about him. The boy's unanimous. He's definitely a twin, but it's about like how some fans view him. And I apologize about the screaming. That is my niece going on in the back. I like as much as I was disappointed about how things ended up in Atlanta, is as proud as I am of him for how he got his life together and where he's at right now, being the head football coach of Norfolk State. I mean, I wanted to see him succeed more in the National Football League as a quarterback. But honestly, the most important thing for me is seeing him winning in life. And honestly, you can't ask for anything more for Michael Vick. All his transgressions through the trials and the tribulations and everything he went through to see where he is now. I mean, it's you can't do nothing but throw up prayers and throw up blessings for him and be proud of him and understand that you only want the best for him and you hope it just keeps getting better for him. But like Champ said, man, people, you're still gonna have those that's gonna hold the bad things he did against him pretty much for the rest of his life. And that's why he's a tweener, because you have those that are going to hold it against him, but then you have those that understand that people make mistakes. And if we're supposed to be a country of second chances and about forgiveness, you can't pick and choose who gets that. So at the end of the day, it's really just about him finding himself and getting his life back on track to where he is today. But Michael Vick is definitely a tweener. But in my opinion, he's one of the greatest what ifs in the history of the National Football League, because it's like I said, if you get fully focused 2010 Michael Vick, what if you get that in Atlanta after he became the full-time starter quarterback? A Michael Vick who was fully focused, a Michael Vick who was studying the playbook, a Michael Vick who was truly focused on being the best quarterback he could be, and not just being the biggest box office talent that the NFL had. If he truly became what I thought he was going to, because when you look at his tape at Vatech, everything showed that he could be a tremendous dual threat quarterback. He had really good pocket presence. We know he's got one of the greatest arms in the history of the National Football League. That's not even a question. But it was the fact that he could make those throws from the pocket, and then add to the fact that he had 4.2, 4.3 speed coming out of the backfield. I mean, the dude is the greatest. In my opinion, I think he's the greatest anomaly at any position we have ever seen. And that includes Calvin Johnson at the wideout. That includes Aaron Donald at defensive tackle. That includes Deion Sanders at the quarterback position, at the corner position. I feel like Michael Vick is the greatest anomaly to have ever graced the NFL with his presence as far as what he could do at his position. I mean, it was just like, it was unheard of. A guy with his speed and his ability to make plays and out of structure plays, but yet have one of the strongest arms we have ever seen. So I'm just glad he's where he's at in his life and in his career. And I just wish him nothing but the best. And I hope he succeeds at Norfolk State. And and if they hear me, if they're watching this up there, I'm just telling y'all now, y'all got a good brother as your head coach. Y'all better take care of that man, because if you take care of that man, where his mindset is now, he gonna take care of y'all. So shout out to Mike, and I wish him nothing but the best. Yeah, but yes, the board is unanimous on that. He's a tweener.
Another African American quarterback, Jamarcus Russell.
Oh man, his story is weird. I guess my thing is, he just sucked. He just sucked as a quarterback. He sucked as a teammate. Is he a heel though? I don't know. I don't know.
His story is kind of unique, because remember Kirk Morrison when he went on the Rich Eisen show and he talked about how the head coaches handed Jamarcus Russell blank DVDs?
You know what? I think that he's a heel because it shows what self-destruction really is about. Whereas Vic's story is a story of redemption. It's a story of, getting out of your own way. It's a story of getting yourself all the way together, understanding, looking in the man in the mirror. I think Jamarcus Russell's story is kind of the exact opposite. Now, granted, after a while, he got a hold of it, but unfortunately, he wasn't able to resurrect his NFL career. But it just goes to show you what laziness will do. It goes to show you what self-indulgence will do. Getting caught up in the traffics of success will do. Not doing what you're supposed to will do. it just goes to show you what happens when you don't do those things.
And he was significantly talented coming out of LSU. If you talk to the draft experts, Todd McShay, Mel Kiper Jr., best pro day that they ever saw was one Jamarcus Russell. And prototypical 6'6", 260, 265, cannon of an arm. Mel Kiper Jr. even mentioned him in the same sentence with John Elway. And now when you look at it, it's nowhere near that. And that's because Jamarcus did not take his football career seriously. He let a lot of things get in his way. In fairness to Flemlo, in fairness to Jamarcus, Flemlo Raps, please go like and subscribe to his content. He talked about the story, and also Tom Rinaldi. He did a piece on Jamarcus Russell back in ESPN. He's now at Fox Sports. Jamarcus was dealing with a lot of personal problems at that time because he lost both of his uncles, Uncle Ray and Uncle Mike, due to health problems. And because of that took such a huge toll on Jamarcus, to which in the 2009 season, he did let himself completely go. I mean, he was at over 300 pounds at that time. Jeff Garcia even mentioned it, and he was a former teammate of Jamarcus back in Oakland. And he struggled during that season. I mean, remember his rookie year, he held out because, again, of that contract. Remember Kirk Morrison, champ, in which he talked about the story in which Jamarcus handed out, remember throwing ones, and they kind of knew that, we got some issues with Jamarcus. Then let's not forget the lean.
Yeah, like I said, I understand that part of it, because when you lose a loved one, you don't know how that's going to affect. If you really, really look at it.
Yeah, in fairness, to put it into context and perspective, people don't want to take that into consideration.
Yeah, but the thing is, he was on that path to laziness long before that even happened.
True.
When the thing is, when you talk about, and I'll give you a good comparison. When you talk about Mike Tyson with Costamato and Jimmy Jacobs, he was on the path to success, discipline, determination, structure, and he had that map already just mapped out for him. When Costamato died, that's when the structure broke down. Before that, and even after that, when Jimmy Jacobs was still his manager, he was still on track to success. When Jimmy Jacobs and Bill Caton was his management team, it wasn't until Jimmy Jacobs died and he moved on to Don King. That's when he became on the path to self-destruction. Jamarcus Russell, long before that even happened, he was already on that path to laziness. He was already on that path to self-loathing. He was already on that path to not studying. So the thing is, once something tragic happens, we used to say this in the Army all the time. When tragedy strikes, what you're trained to do and what you're training to do is what's going to show. I'll say that again. We say this. We used to say this in the Army all the time. Shout out to Drill Sergeant Felici and Sergeant Walls, Drill Sergeant Walls. Those are my two drill sergeants that trained me in basic training. They always said, when tragedy strikes and when adversity strikes, what you trained to do, what you were trained to do, and the habits that you're formed is what's going to show. So with that being said, if you are trained when the bullets come down range and they're trying to hurt you on the battlefield, the first thing that's going to kick in, if you have great habits and you have great skill and you have the structure within yourself to say, hey, I have to knuckle down and get to it on this battlefield, and guess what? That's what you're going to do. If you don't have that structure in the first place, then that's what's going to take over. The self-loathing, the self-hatred, all of the bad things that's going to happen. So the thing is, it wasn't like a Mike Tyson situation where he was on the path to flat out greatness, and he was on the path to, being one of the greatest of all time. Jamarcus Russell was already making those hard beds long before any of those things happened. He showed up to rookie camp not in the best shape in the world. Even the very next season, drinking the lean, going to the club, not watching film. The habits that you make, those are what's going to come in handy when disaster strikes. They teach you that in the Army. Not only that, my father taught me that, man. I'm training you to do this because this is what you're going to need to do when tragedy strikes. You're going to need to be poised. You're going to need to be stoic. You're going to need to be unemotional. You're going to need to be in a situation to where everybody's going to look, who needs to look at you, can look at you and say, we need you, and you can be there for them. But when tragedy strikes and you've already put yourself into a bad habit of being lazy, self-loathing, I'm going to go party every night.
That's my point. That's my point. That's my point, Chad. That's my point. He was having problems long before. I understand that. But to lose family members, if you lose loved ones, and if you're dealing with these problems, imagine how much the problems are going to be, even bigger. And unfortunately, with Jamarcus, his final year in Oakland, 3 touchdown passes to 11 interceptions. 3 touchdown passes to 11 interceptions. I'm reading the stats right here. His stats regarding his career. 3 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. His final year in Oakland with a completion percentage of 48.8%. And when he was the starter, they were 2-7. And 3 years. Remember, that's how long an NFL player is supposed to last in the NFL, right? 3 years. That's how long he lasted in the NFL. And then after that, it was over. I'm glad for Jamarcus that he has turned around his life. There was some type of accusation that he was dealing with. Something I don't remember exactly, but Jamarcus, I say heel, champ, because he had so much talent in the world. Jamarcus, you know how I view Jamarcus, BRF and champ, the same way y'all view Jeff George. Y'all can't stand Jeff George. Y'all don't like Jeff George for his attitude. Now, Jamarcus was far worse as far as his professionalism and play, but that's how I think of Jamarcus. Jamarcus had so much talent coming out of LSU. And instead of using your God-given ability and the talent that God blessed you with, you took it for granted. You wasted it. Had Jamarcus Russell had the maturity and the focus, maybe he could have been he would have been a hell of a lot better than what he left out in his career in Oakland. Could he have been one of the greatest quarterbacks ever? I don't know. But it could have been a hell of a lot better than what he left out on the table in Oakland. And remember, Lane Kiffin, keep in mind, champ, Lane Kiffin, he kind of knew he did not want Jamarcus. Remember, he wanted Calvin Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted Calvin Johnson with the number 1 overall pick. But rest his soul, Al Davis saw the Sugar Bowl game in which Jamarcus lit up like a Christmas tree against Notre Dame. And Jamarcus at that time was the consensus choice for the number 1 overall pick because, of course, you're the quarterback and he had all the physical tools.
Yeah. And unfortunately for Al Davis, there was a guy named Daryl LaMonica that Al Davis coached when he was at the Oakland Raiders. Because remember, when Al Davis first started, he was the coach, the general manager, and the minority owner. I don't believe Al Davis never forgot Daryl LaMonica.
Yes.
Because ever since then, he's been trying to find the next Daryl LaMonica, the Mad Bombers.
BRF, is there anything you want to add?
Honestly, no, not well. I guess when you argue from that standpoint, I guess you hate to say that he's a heel, but I mean, you have to if you go back to his time in LSU and how immensely talented he was, and it wasn't just the fact that it was his arm strength, but I mean, you look at him being 6'6", 265, and being the athlete that he was at his peak. in LSU. It was his ability, his mobility, his ability to run and make plays with his feet. I mean, I feel like that was like one of the scariest. I feel like that was like the scariest part about it. It wasn't just the fact that his arm was just ungodly. It was his ability to move and his ability to run and get first downs with his feet. And you just really you felt like it was gonna translate. So I mean, you just the laziness really kicking in and really taking over and really kind of like it you hate to see that happen. And like you said, yeah, he definitely did have his personal issues and things that he had dealt with, in the NFL. But yeah, like you could see the laziness, like you could see it like from the jump, and it's one of those things that you wish he was better, but sometimes it's kind of one of those. It is what it is. I'm definitely glad he's on track. I'm glad he's got himself together. But I guess for the amount of potential that he had when he got drafted to being arguably the biggest bust in the history of the NFL, yeah, I guess you do have to go. You have to go heal, like the immeasurable abilities to just basically kind of like flatline him when you got to the league. So yeah, he had to be a heel for me too.
I think if we had a discussion, maybe we'll mention his name, Ryan Leaf. I can
He's up there as
understand
biggest
people,
bust ever.
yeah, as far as bust, but as babyface, heel, or tweener, you could say heel because of how his career was. Because again, either him or Peyton Manning, and of course the great executive, of the Bills, Bill of the Colts, champ Bill Polian decided to roll with Peyton. But if Ryan Leaf, I could say tweener because how the way he's turned around his life. He had a lot of personal problems, not only in his career but also outside, and how he's become like a mentor and stuff like that. It's just sad that with Jamarcus because he had so much talent, and I just felt like he could have capitalized off of it, but he took it for granted. Michael Vick, we had the discussion with Michael Vick, even though Michael Vick in Atlanta did not take his football career seriously. He admitted he was the first guy to leave, the last one to show up to the building. And he didn't take his career as seriously as he should have. But at the same time, at least he turned it around in Philadelphia, and now he's turning it around post NFL career. All right, BRF, I'll let you go with this one. Favorite R-Truth moment?
Oh man. He's got so many. He's got so many. Um
I'm sorry, I got to steal this one. The little Jimmy.
yes. I mean that's definitely up there. Like when they initially turned him heel, that second WWE run, and he just flipped his lid to the point of little Jimmy. That, oh man, and the fact that I think only R-Truth could have got that as over as he did. That was crazy. Um, but like the TNA run, he's a two, and people don't understand the significance of what I'm about to say. He is a two-time former NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. People do not understand the significance of what just came out of my mouth when I say that. Black man at that. He is a two-time NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. I feel like the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion is arguably the most prestigious championship ever created by man. When you look at the lineage who's held that belt, from the Ric Flairs, the Harley Races, the Dusty Rhodes, like everyone that's held that championship, and the fact that R-Truth is in that lineage as being the first black man to hold that championship is one of the craziest things you will ever hear. But at the time, it was like R-Truth is such a good and still to this day, he is still a really good wrestler. But TNA, like he was one of the best wrestlers in that company. So I mean, it was justified and it was deserved when they actually gave him the NWA World Heavyweight title. So him winning the championship for the first time is definitely one of my favorite moments. Him finally getting the WrestleMania win last year in Philly. Him and Miz winning the Raw Tag Team Championships, which ultimately became the World Tag Team titles. That was amazing because because that's probably one of the things that R-Truth was missing as far as his career. Like we know how many we know. I mean the 24/7 title was like one of the funniest things I've ever seen too. The 24/7 title was insane. Just like the vignettes, like especially when it was him and Carmella, and Carmella was like his little shield, and they were just going all over the place. Whether it was Jinder Mahal chasing after him, whether it was friggin' like I mean, it got to the point where it was like, like Akira Tozawa. Like it got to the point where he was chasing him, and then it gets to the point that wedding scene on that wedding skit on Monday Night Raw, where like our truth was supposed to be marrying like Akira Tozawa and Tamina, and it was just like oh my gosh, like R-Truth is like one of the most entertaining people this company has ever had, and I hate it. I hate it that he's they're gonna let his contract run out. They're not gonna bring him back. But just so many things, and one of my favorite interests of all time too. One of my favorite interests of all time because he's a really good entertainer. He's a really good artist. He's a really good rapper. So if you go back to his first run when he was K Quick, him and Road Dogg, the performances going out to the ring during the entrance, and then debuting the R-Truth character, the performance just going down the ring, and just you kind of hate it. You kind of hate it. He didn't get like. I mean, he won championships. I mean, he won championships. I mean, he was a U.S. champion. He was a tag team champion. He did get one kind of push as a heel, where he did get to compete for the WWE title against John Cena. But just the comedy, just the entertainment, so many like there's probably more R-Truth moments that I didn't name. Oh, real quick before I let Champ go, let me tell you something. His work with the Judgment Day, like, bro, I have never Damian Priest. Damian Priest. People know, Champ knows how big of a Damian Priest supporter I've been really since his time in the Judgment Day, and then when he broke away, and now seeing what he's doing. I felt for Damian Priest so much every time he was in a skit with R-Truth, because R-Truth is one of those, he tries to break you on purpose. And Damian Priest, God bless his soul, could never keep a straight face with that man in any of those skits to save my life, to save his life. The one particular one where he was talking to him and he was like, "You changed. How you felt changed about me. I could see it in your eyes." And you just see Damian Priest look away. I'm like, oh my God. Like, just R-Truth was just like, R-Truth just make everything like, he could take something that's not fun, that's just not funny at all, and just make it like 10 times that much funnier. Like when Damian Priest first, like when he cashed in and won the World Heavyweight Championship, the scene of Rhea holding the Women's World title, Damian Priest is holding the World Heavyweight Championship, and R-Truth just magically pops in the middle of the screen and puts the Raw Tag Team Championship up in between them two, like he's still a member of the Judgment Day. Like, I swear for God, like I'm just like, I felt for him so much. Damian Priest was like, I bet you Damian Priest really wants to cold cock him because he just can't keep a straight face in any of these skits. So man, hey, R-Truth didn't have, he won championships, but honestly, ultimately, we're gonna miss the entertainment factor with him. He is arguably, in my opinion, I think he's the greatest comedy wrestler the WWE has ever had. I mean, you're looking at like him, you're looking at Santino Marella as far as like the greatest comedic wrestlers that company's ever had. I think it's truth. I mean, like, and the fact that he's like 53 now, and don't look a day over 30 and still just doing his thing. Like shout out to that brother, man, because I laughed so hard through so much of his stuff. Man, I can't pick a favorite because I got too many. I literally laughed out loud at. I got too many of them. So, but yeah, I'm gonna let Champ go because R-Truth. I got to meet that man one day, and I just got to ask him like, what the hell was on your mind through some of them skits? I just got to ask him. And anybody that can make Brock Lesnar break on television, salute.
Undisputed world champ.
You remember when he went to the Money in the Bank promo? And they told him, well, R-Truth, you're not in this, man. You remember when he ran out doing the Women's Royal Rumble? Remember his the skit with Bobby Lashley when he threw his hands up like this and accidentally slapped Bobby Lashley? He looked up like, oh man, I'd have messed up. Remember when Mayor Kane, won the 24/7 match, won the 24/7 title, and then Kane had got out of the limousine, and then R-Truth pinned him. And then Kane was about to choke slam. He said, wait a minute. And he actually talked Kane down, and Kane went on ahead and walked away. R-Truth, man, one of the most serious moments that he had was the moment with Ricky Steamboat in TNA. Where he was telling him, how many shots at the WWF title did you get when you was in there? Knowing how talented that you was. Don't you feel that you got held back? And that's how he was able to get his title shot with at the TNA title. So I think that serious moment gets kind of lost in the works. I think when you're so comical and you're so unserious, that certain serious moments get lost in your career. But I think that segment with him and Ricky Steamboat, of him, because Steamboat should have been the WWE champion. If you really, really want me to be honest, he was the WCW champion when he went over on Ric Flair a few times. But I think he would have been better served as the WWE champion, especially that match that he had at WrestleMania 3 versus Macho Man. But the fact that he brought up that, and that was able to transition him over to being a wrestler that was taken serious in TNA, that's nothing short of amazing. TNA, a lot of the wrestlers that they had, a lot of the talent that they had has to be studied, because there was a lot of talent in that company that only the hardcore wrestling fan would understand. When you think about Samoa Joe, when you think about Marcus Corvon, back then he was Monty Brown. When you think about Beer Money, Robert Roode, when you think about The Abyss, when you think about R-Truth, when you think about a lot of those guys who were young and up and coming talent, who didn't get to the WWE until later in their career, and they were surrounded by a lot of these legends that had been to WWE and WCW, but they were trying to make their own way. TNA was loaded with talent. They were loaded with talent at one point.
AJ Styles, Angle.
Yeah, they were loaded with talent. I mean, I'm not just talking about just legends. I'm talking about young talent like AJ Styles, Petey Williams, and all of those guys.
Oh boy!
So all of those guys. The only thing I remember about Petey Williams is Trick Williams making. That's another story for another day. But yeah, TNA was loaded with talent, and the fact that they could break through, he could break through with that talent. And fun thing about what BRF said, he wasn't the first, he was the second. Because remember, Ron Simmons was the first NWA champion that was the spinoff from WCW. Ron Simmons was the first when he beat Van Vader. I think it was the Great American.
That was the WCW championship that he won though.
Yeah, but that was NWA WCW. But yeah. Yeah, that was the WCW was the original wrestling National Wrestling Alliance, and it stemmed off from that. So that's how come when you hear about the NWA now, that's why you hear about the Crockett Cup. Jim Crockett was the original promoter of the National Wrestling Alliance. That's why it used to be Jim Crockett Promotions. So yeah, so Jim Crockett was the original owner of WCW.
Right.
Yeah, NWA. So that's why they call it. That's why when you talk about the Crockett Cup, that's how come that holds so much prestige when you hear wrestlers doing that, because of how Jim Crockett was in the Southern Territories that went on to become WCW. And for you to be, and think about that belt back then, especially, you had to put a $20,000 deposit on that belt before you run it. So that way, if you lost it or something like that, you had to put a $20,000 deposit on that belt before you was able to get put over. So big ups to Ron Simmons and Ron the Truth in order to win those belts. Not to mention when he teamed up with Pac-Man. No, that was memorable. Because remember, Pac-Man couldn't wrestle. So they did a lot of gimmick stuff in order to make sure that Pac-Man Jones didn't break his contract. So I never forget one particular match, Pac-Man didn't get tagged in correctly, and he snatched a whole lot of money and just threw it in this guy's face. R-Truth end up pinning the dude because he was distracted by that money. So there was a lot of stuff like that. And then what's so funny about that is years later, Pac-Man Jones couldn't even get his name right, which was kind of crazy if you ask me. So, but yeah, I think that a lot of things was memorable about R-Truth. I mean, you can't forget that ring entrance. What's up? What's up? What's up?
Yeah, I love that.
What's up? What's up? Then to top it all off, what's up? So
yeah, dude has so much charisma, man. I mean, charisma definitely can entertain the audience, but the little Jimmy. Like, do you remember when Mr. McMahon and Steve Austin, after the Tough Enough and before he faces John Cena for the title, remember the little Jimmy entrance with him wearing the type of soldier outfit?
Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do.
That's good. And fellas, one last one. Tyrese. Mine's a sweet lady. And my member, I don't think people realize Maya Campbell. That was the young actress who played in that LL Cool J sitcom In the House. It was on NBC and then later on in the WB.
yes,
Watch that music video. She was beautiful. She's beautiful. That was, beautiful. But Tyrese, the vocals, the beat, the song. Remember, champ, I listened to the remix version of Chris Brown's Poppin' with Sweet Lady. Remember that? Remember the song I sent you? I think it was this week or last week. If you go listen to it. But Tyrese, I love his work from Baby Boy, Four Brothers, Too Fast, Too Furious. But he did some songs. That, How You Gonna Act Like That? I love the song with him and Chingy, Pulling Me Back. Sweet Lady.
Oh man. Sweet Lady was definitely up there. Not gonna lie, I love that song that him and the Brat did. What You Like?
Yeah.
Because hey man, I don't think people understand how people this generation only remember him as an actor, but
he was singing back in the 90s.
He was, and when he was on a track, you knew it. You knew it because he could hit them notes, man. So Tyrese, man, that's how you gonna act like that? Sounds of Love Making. Everybody remembers I'm a Capricorn. I can't help but get managed. Yeah. Everybody remembers that part. So you gotta, man, that you just a baby boy, you not the real McCoy.
Right.
that was very, very memorable. Have I told you I loved you lately? Have I told you I loved you? Come to find, I didn't
Absolutely.
realize that wasn't originally his song. That was originally Anita Baker's song. So Tyrese, man, look, for all of his great acting, man, him as a singer was iconic, man. Him as a singer was iconic. And yeah, man, some of the like I said, a lot of the guys back in the 90s, a lot of the guys and the women back in the 90s, they had the stiffest competition when it came to competing. Because when you think about R&B back in the 90s, in the early 2000s, ooh, it was packed. It was very, very packed. But I'm not just talking about up and coming guys. You had established guys that were still doing their thing as well. That being Luther Vandross, you name it, they were still doing their thing. So for Tyrese to come out and do his thing during that time and have a song as memorable as "Sweet Lady" and "Lately" and things like that, that was spectacular, man. That was spectacular.
BRF.
Whew, man. But yeah, yeah, for the for the work he did acting, Tyrese is still to me better as an artist, like singer. He's still a better singer. Yeah, I mean y'all named pretty much a lot of the classics. I mean you named Sweet Lady, Lately, How You Gonna Act Like That, Signs of Love Making, um shoot, some like Stay. I love Stay. Stay is a really good song because he wanted to like because like I can't remember which album that was, but he kind of delved back into like that old, almost felt like like that 70s kind of flow of R&B kind of, and he kind of wanted to bring that back a little bit. And he's got a new song out, Wildflower. Great song. Um, gosh, I'm trying. What? Yeah, like I mean, and like you name like a lot of the features. Yeah, yeah. What do you like? Yeah, him and Brad pulling me back. Gosh, what else is there? There's so. I mean, I know there's probably features with him that I'm leaving out. Shoot, the when he collabed with Genuine and Tank when they did the TGT album and they did
Mm.
the Please Don't Go remix, like just man, yeah, like I said, for as much improved as he is as an actor, he's still a better singer to me. And and I know there's probably like some songs I haven't named, but y'all pretty much listed off all the classics. Like all the ones that he's gonna go down in history for, we pretty much named them all. So yeah, definitely shout out to him. If I had to pick one though, my favorite one from him though is probably if I had to pick one, it'd probably Signs of Love Making. It's probably my favorite Tyrese song.
Nice. And for next week on the Sports PSP Pod, we're gonna do favorite Jagged Edge track.
Mm.
Nice.
So, but fellas, that concludes the rest of the Sports PSP Pod. BRF. Any final words? And tell them where to follow you at, brother.
Whew, man, definitely always a pleasure to get on here every Friday night and share the spotlight with you two fine brothers, man. It's always a pleasure. I always have a blast when I get on here. BRF Sports, as always, is the TikTok handle. Y'all can follow. Please like, comment, share. Come on, follow me because I'm about to get ready to get back in the stretch of things. We're getting in the summer. You know what I'm saying? Topics about to get hot and people are about to be stupid for some of the things they say. And y'all know one of the things that brought me to the dance was stitching a few stitching a few videos that kind of deserved to be stitched. That kind of put me out there. So I'm definitely gotta get back on there. But yeah, the link tree's in the bio. You can follow the IG, you can follow the Facebook page, the Twitter/X, and I also have a Discord. So definitely click the active link there. Y'all come in. Y'all have fun with me. Man, I love these two brothers for giving me this platform to be able to, do what I enjoy doing. And I'm having a blast with it. And I'm going to continue to have a blast with it. So I'm gonna continue to, as I say, bring that real flair to the sports talk game. And it's like I always say, because a topic not thought about is a topic not talked about.
Undisputed world champ.
Always a privilege, a pleasure, and an honor to be on the Sports PSP podcast. Thank you for bringing me on each and every week. They call it the highlight of Friday nights for a reason, and I'm just grateful to be here, man. I'm just grateful to be on here every single week, and I'm just grateful to be able to be around gentlemen that are as talented as you and BRF, and I appreciate every little thing that comes with it. And BSP, congratulations, 110K, doing your thing. Like I said, I gave you the nickname, the Tom Joyner of podcasting, because of how hard you work. And look, man, and I'm darn proud of you. BRF, every single week, we go back to back. Like we've been going back to back every week. One day we do sports PSPs, and then the next day we do our own pod. And then now we had to reschedule it for Monday, and we've been pulling up, doing numbers ever since. So thank you for the hard work that you contribute to the show as well. And I just want to thank God and thank all of y'all for allowing me to be here and, let me put my best foot forward, whether it be in comedic version of myself or the serious version, as we saw a lot more of tonight. So thank y'all for allowing me to have that platform. I appreciate it. I salute y'all as usual.
Anytime. And y'all know where to follow me at, folks. Sports PSP, IG, TikTok, YouTube. Definitely gonna come out with some more clips tomorrow. Definitely gonna probably do a game 2 reaction regarding the finals. So you never know. I'll come up with some more content. Please enjoy the rest of the weekend. Be with family. If you want to go to the barbecue, go to the beach, be with your friends, be with people that you have love and respect for. Do that. It's the summer. Please stay hydrated. Don't be drinking any Monster or energy drinks around this time because it is hot. So just drink as much agua, water as possible. Don't get into any arguments or beef. I mean, clearly you see that with two individuals in President Trump and Elon Musk. But that's a story for another day.
The girls are fighting.
And on that note, we're going to end the podcast. Y'all enjoy the rest of your weekend. And peace.